Ladies and gentlemen who are watching this on Facebook, this is a new experience. This is also, as you're probably confused, the 22nd episode of this podcast. So you're wondering what happened to the other 21. And the answer is we didn't think of putting this on Facebook beforehand. But for those of you that normally join us on a weekend basis, the last couple months on Twitter and YouTube, welcome back. It is your favorite new football podcast. I think I could still call us new until the regular season starts. So we have like another week or two of that, boys. So the still fresh in the minds of the people, but ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast, your favorite podcast for fun, football, and chaos. That's what we are here for. That's what we talk about and do every single week. And this might be the most chaotic episode yet. We've been teasing it throughout this entire summer. A beautiful summer 2022 was great. But the highlight of it for us, and for those of you that have been joining us weekly, have been the fact that we went through each and every single division, and we gave our thoughts, our opinions. We broke it down. We gave you our 1 through 4 in all the divisions. If you're curious about that, you can go back and watch those episodes. They're still up on the Bunts and Bruises YouTube. But what you can do, especially now, what people have been wondering is like, wait, you gave us the 1 through 4, but who's making the playoffs, Jurgen, aside from those first 4? Well, ladies and gentlemen, the 3 of us are here. We're each going to give you our 7 teams. But before we get to that, of course, I need to properly introduce this panel of legends. We have the number 1 future sponsorship vehicle in the world in the future in Sandoval. We have the next great game show host in American television history, my man Justin Zucker. Justin, how we doing?
Doing great. You know, Sandoval's keeping me up at night, but I think let's see. Well, maybe I'll be able to stump him this week.
Yes. For those of you joining us on Facebook, you will see soon the rivalry between Justin and Sandoval. And of course, the man who kind of brought all this together as he texted us as we were messing with him last week. I brought you all into this world, and he didn't say he would take us out of it because I don't think he wants to, because he knows how much fun we cause. Podfather Rick, how are we doing?
I'd get very lonely if you guys weren't in this world, to be honest with you. Now, doing okay. You know, it's fun to be with some new people on the social media interwebs, and I'm excited for this week. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be I think highly controversial. We've had some controversy in the past. You know, we've done a lot of I've done a lot of interesting things on this podcast. I'll put it that way. I think the three of you have been safe. But yeah. You've unleashed me on a new social media platform. Who knows what's going to happen? We'll see.
Yes, the people on Facebook, you're going to learn, because, you know, a staple for the people. I don't think it's much of a spoiler, because you're going to learn this throughout a weekly basis on the show. We end with a podium of rants by Rick himself that he does all the research on. He also hides it from me and Justin. So me and Justin's reactions are live to whatever on earth he's going to talk about. And I say whatever on earth, we might go into the space realm at some point. I'm sure Rick has his thoughts and comments about NASA and the greater universe as a whole. But time will tell if he ever rants about it. But in the meanwhile, let's stick down to earth and down to America's sport, which, let's be honest, this really is America's sport at this point. Football. Good old American football. Sorry for all the international listeners. Doubly sorry for what's going to happen later in this episode when it comes to that. But irregardless, like I said in the big intro, ladies and gentlemen, we are here to give you our playoff teams. Like I said, we went through the summer. We gave you our division breakdowns. You know, if you've been keeping up with us on a weekly basis, you know who all of us have as our number 1 teams in the division. But who are our wild cards, and what is the order of the playoffs that we have? You guys are going to figure that out later in the episode. But per usual, because he's back, Justin is back from Dallas. He had a fun time. Like I said, he's the next popular game show host in America. He is back to host his games. He's back to test us on trivia, and he's here to see if he can finally get Sandoval. Sandoval is undefeated, never lost against Justin. We'll see if that streak continues this week. Or, and this has happened once before, me and Rick get it before he can send it to Sandoval. So we'll see what happens there. Justin, my brother, first off, if you want to tell the people about your trip to Dallas, you can. And then once you're done with that, take it away, man.
You know, I will say we did a cool tour of the Cowboy Stadium, and it's one of those places that, like, you don't really understand until you're there. I mean, what a place that was. It was so cool, and for real, that screen is humongous. It is just absolutely enormous. I think the dimensions they gave us, it said it was like the same size as a 7-story building. It was massive. Massive.
$1 billion playpen for a reason, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'd hate to be the electrician they call because a pixel in the middle of that board is out, and I have to go fix a panel in the very middle of the board. You're still going to walk 7 flights of stairs to get to that point, pretty much, but horizontally. It's great.
Actually, and it doesn't come all the way down. It only goes. The lowest it goes is 25 feet above the ground. I think they said.
Oh, charming.
The lowest it's lowered. So, good luck to that person. Anyways, let's see. What do you guys want today? You want to go running backs, or you want to go? Oh, or running backs. Those are my two questions. All right. Let's
Can I take fullbacks? Can I take them instead?
You know what? No, I'm gonna go with running backs. And my question is, what running back had the most consecutive 100-yard games? You can give me the top two. I'd be very impressed.
Most consecutive 100-yard games.
Most consecutive 100-yard rushing games
in a season, career. What's the criteria?
I don't know if it was from season. Like, I think it was in a season. Let me just find out. But it could have been overlapped. It could have been from one season to the next.
All right, copy. So overall streak. Okay.
And big clarification. No, you're talking consecutive. You're not talking about just for a career.
Consecutive 100-yard rushing game.
Yeah, because that's a pretty big distinction right there. That's one of those quirky stats. Because I mean, most NFL 100-yard rushing games in a career, I think you can narrow that down pretty consistently. But consecutive, that's a little more challenging, I think. I think you, Jared, you and I can bat around some names here. I think, from Purgatory's representative to God's favorite deer, who's an MI6 representative in training, by the way, right now. Okay, so let's bat around some names here. I think a name that when I think of running backs that had great stats, I think of Walter Payton immediately.
Right.
I think of Walter Payton. I think of Emmitt Smith. Those are my top two. But again, it could be anybody else. I'm trying to think of
Could Barry Sanders be in this?
Barry Sanders is also up there too. I think. Yeah, I really think Barry Sanders is a good shout.
Barry Sanders. I think those. I can't think of any modern running backs that would be in this conversation. I just can't. Maybe Adrian Peterson, but I feel like he's had injuries in his career that could have derailed him.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that AP's a guy who could be in that mold, but like I said, I think too many percentage. I think too. I think if you're going for guys that are later on in their careers, I think the nature of the game has changed so much that it's now a passing league. Right. So a guy like a Derrick Henry probably won't be on this list because now that the game has changed so much. A guy like Marcus Allen, on the other hand, might be on the list because you go back to the 80s and it was a very run-heavy driven style. So I think we're looking at 80s, 90s. I think the four guys that we've talked about, Barry Sanders especially, is a good shout. I don't know. I mean, I almost feel like there's enough names here. I know we only get two guesses each, but there's enough names here for us to knock out the top four. And if we're wrong on all those four, then I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something. I don't think Sandoval knows his running back trivia.
Oh no!
So if we don't get it, this might be the week that Justin finally breaks the schneid.
We'll see. So the way the trivia works, ladies and gentlemen, me, Rick, and Sandoval all have two guesses each on this. And yes, Sandoval is included, ladies and gentlemen, because him and Justin are the fiercest of rivals. We tend to do a pretty good job at naming like everyone whenever it comes to these, like name number one or top two, top three. Me and Rick tend to name almost everybody in like the top 10. So
it's amazing. It really is.
Without even trying. So there's a pretty good chance here. So I'll use our first bullet in the chamber here, Rick. I'll go with Barry Sanders. I'll go with the name like the name that popped to my mind.
In first place, Barry Sanders had 14 rushing, 100-yard rushing games.
That's excellent.
Can you guys name
that is excellent.
Two,
Can we name number two?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's right, because it was number one and number two.
I figured you'd get the first one.
Yeah.
That's why I made it two.
All right. Let me burn my most recent thought here. I'm going to say Marcus Allen, the Raiders.
Interesting. No, Marcus Allen is not on my list currently. I don't have a top 10 list like I usually do. This one was a harder one to find, and I wasn't going through hundreds of running backs.
Sure.
Fair enough.
time.
That's reasonable.
He could have been high up there, but he's not on my top 2 list.
I guess that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, I mean,
I don't want to use your other guess, Rick, but I think Walter Payton is a good shout. I think Walter Payton's a really good shout on this one.
I think Walter Payton's a good look too.
Yeah.
I think it's worth a shot.
Yeah. So I'll bullet number 2, Walter Payton for me.
Walter Payton is also not on this list.
Oh,
not number 2.
Damn.
Dang.
Damn.
See, I feel like he was a really good one because in his time, especially.
I think so. Yeah, he was good too.
Well, if you want to know, you guys are giving a good shot at the top 100-yard rushing games in the career. Barry Sanders at 76 is number 3, and Walter Payton is number 2 at 77 rushing 100-yard rushers.
So that was my thought. You know what? I had the right logic, but for that question, not for this one, because that would probably tell me that Emmitt Smith is number 1. Then obviously in the career, but I'm trying to think because it's down to me and then the damn deer. What do you think about LaDainian Tomlinson?
Hey, that's not a bad one at all. That is not a bad one at all. I think, you know what? Even more than Adrian Peterson, I think if we got to go with a modern running back, I think LT would be the one, Rick. I think that's a great one. Because
I'm trying to think about that offense, and Phillip Rivers was in that offense, that quarterback, but who was he throwing it to? It's not from Antonio Gates. Yeah. Vincent Jackson?
Didn't LT win the MVP award?
I think he did, yeah. I don't know if it was the same year. Yeah. You know what? I'll go with it. I'll go with LT, LaDainian Tomlinson.
LaDainian Tomlinson did have a great year in 2008. He is not number 2 on this list. He had a lot of rushing yards. I think he had 20 touchdowns that year. He had a fantastic year.
I'll look up that season real quick because that season was just wild.
Wow. Damn. All right, so Jurg, you and I are both out then.
Yeah, Sandoval has his 2 guesses.
Which paves the main way. And, I mean, we said it's 1 guess because, let's be honest here. He tries – because according to our records, he's been perfect. So
true, but he still kind of deserves it. By the way, real quick, just to have it, that 06 season that we just touched upon, MVP award and Offensive Player of the Year, 1,815 rushing yards, 28 rushing touchdowns. Holy hell, LaDainian Tomlinson was different.
Wow.
He even added 3 receiving touchdowns, so over 30 touchdowns from
crazy.
Jesus. Oh, he had 2 passing touchdowns too, actually, that year. He did it all. He did it all.
That's great. Good for you, LT. I like LaDainian Tomlinson. When he came to the Jets, I really enjoyed him being there because he was a consummate pro. He was a pro's pro. So he was a great player too.
Oh man! All right. Sandoval, save us.
Did Sandoval look up the answer yet?
Yeah, he has one. He does.
He Googled it already?
Hilarious. Now he sporkled the answer, actually. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
So, Jurg, you and I are on the right track here when you think about it. Because all the guys that we named, what do they all have in common?
Hall of Famers?
Sure. But they also had quarterbacks that weren't high-esteemed quarterbacks in their time. Rivers is probably the best one, I think. But Barry Sanders didn't really have a great quarterback in Detroit. Marcus Allen, Jim Plunkett was good, but Marcus Allen wasn't the guy. And then you said Walter Payton, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, 85 Bears and Jim McMahon. That's not really that's maybe your 4th favorite McMahon. Just ahead of Shane and behind Linda. But Sandoval, in thinking about this, Sandoval mentioned to me a name that it's a quarterback.
Uh-huh.
He mentioned a quarterback's name. He said, "What about Vince Young?" And no, that's not the answer. But he said, "What about Vince Young as a guy who was a quarterback who needed to have a good running back to give him space?" He said, "What about Kerry Collins?" What about Rusty Smith from Florida Atlantic University? Justin, I'm sorry to say this, but I think Sandoval's got your number, man. CJ2K is his answer. Chris Johnson.
Yes, in 12 consecutive games, CJ2K had 12 consecutive 100-yard rushing games. Number 2 on that list behind Barry Sanders with 14.
Wow.
Because you know what? Because I was also thinking too. I know I said like 80s and 90s, but I was thinking about guys in the 2000s that were like Fred Taylor of the Jaguars,
Right.
Deuce McAllister, even Deuce Staley. You know, when he was on the Eagles, like, and even Priest Holmes too of the Chiefs. I was thinking about like those kind of guys too, might have been. But CJ2K is a great shout. So it's a great shout.
How does a deer use Google with hooves? Does that work?
No, Justin. Just to spite you, I think Sandoval uses Bing.
Oh, okay.
No. He's on Ask Jeeves.
Oh man, so Sandoval once again gets it. Justin, do we have another trivia, or has Sandoval bested you fully this week?
Would you like one?
Rick,
he wasn't here last week. Let's give him another one.
True.
See what happens.
All right. So I guess we'll stick with the theme. And at one point, Jurg had asked which receiver had the most receiving touchdowns in their first 2 years in their career, and it got me thinking: what running back has the most rushing touchdowns in their first 2 seasons in the NFL? And I'll give you a hint: it's a trick question because it's a tie.
Cam Newton.
It's not a running back.
I know it's not a running back, but you never know.
Oh man.
Technically, the question does say the most rushing touchdowns by a player in their first 2 seasons. So no.
Ooh.
Trying to think of running backs that made that immediate of an impact.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, well, let's think about it like this. Jonathan Taylor's been really, really good in his first 2 seasons.
True. Last year was just year 2 for him.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, what is he going to be the next 2 years? Oh my God.
Well, listen. If he bucks the trend of short shelf lives for a running back, he could rewrite the record book. He's really, really good.
Yeah. Holy shit.
If you want to use that, use that. I have a name that's stuck in my head that's actually an off the beaten path name that I'm going to throw out there as a first guess.
Okay.
When I say his name, Joe, you're gonna have a good reaction to it, I think.
Okay, copy.
Clinton Portis.
Oh, that's a throwback.
I'll tell you what. That is a very good guess. It is not the case, though. He is 4th on the list with 29 total touchdowns in his.
He's still 4th, though.
Season. Right?
Think about that. He's still 4th. That's amazing.
So wait, hold on. Before I say Jonathan Taylor and use my guess number 1, he had 18 rushing touchdowns last season, right, or something like that. He had a high number. Do you remember what he had his rookie season, Rick? Because if Clinton Portis had 29, I don't know if Jonathan Taylor is above him then. Jonathan Taylor had an outstanding year 2, but his rookie season is kind of like a fog for me.
Well, who was his quarterback in his rookie season? Rivers?
Yeah.
I mean,
could be. But remember, like that, I think that was also heavily a Naheem Hines.
Or wait. Didn't they have Rivers for 2 years or 1?
1.
So then, if last year was with Rivers, then it was the year before that was with somebody else. Right?
Well, no. Last year was Carson Wentz. The year before was Rivers.
Right. So it was Rivers and Wentz. My God, he's gone through three quarterbacks in 3 seasons, and he's still killing it. Look, I'll tell you what though. Well, actually, wait. Michael Pittman's in his 2nd year though, right?
No, I think it's his 3rd season.
Is it his 3rd season?
I have no idea. I'm gonna be real with you.
I think so. I think he was drafted in the same year as CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy and all of them.
Which that was 2020.
I believe so.
Oh, okay.
Mims year.
Oh.
Denzel Mims year.
Rick is so mad now.
Another one?
Terrible. Baylor's getting up there now.
I mean, just because it's really a struggle. Because again, I'm thinking of like just pure unadulterated dominance. We know Adrian Peterson became the best running back of his generation, but his first 2 years, I don't think the rushing touchdown count was that high.
Mm-hmm.
So Marshawn Lynch, we know what beast mode became. Did he? I don't think he burst off the scene like that. I think it took a little bit for us to get to the beast mode that we know.
True.
So
what about guys further back, do you think?
That's also
Curtis Martin?
Oh, you know what? Yeah, Curtis Martin is not a bad shout right there. Curtis Martin. God, I'm trying to think.
Edgerrin James?
Was Eric Dickerson a high rushing touchdown guy?
He might have been, because the Rams were a stalwart, so he might have been a high rushing touchdown guy potentially.
Maybe Eric Dickerson. Crazy. I'll use that just because that's the retro. I don't want to take any more from you, so I'll say Eric Dickerson is my guess. Watch it be like 9.
In his first 2 seasons, averaging 1 rushing touchdown per game, Eric Dickerson is tied at number 1 with 32 rushing touchdowns.
Nice.
Woo-hoo.
And I do have to make a correction. Technically, Clinton Portis is tied for 3rd.
Okay.
So we've named 2 of the top 4.
Yes. Well, I think we've named 3. So I have a high mark for Jonathan Taylor being up there, I think.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to take that one for your modern guest, go for it, because I have an old school name that I think I'm going to use.
I'll say I'll use that real quick. Jonathan Taylor.
Well, in 32 games, Jonathan Taylor did have 32 touchdowns, but 3 of them were receiving. He's actually tied with Clinton Portis at 29 rushing touchdowns.
Man.
3rd place in his first 2 seasons.
So he had a great rookie season, right?
So I kind of – we always forget one name that when we talk about old school running backs that really made the way, paved the way for all these new guys. And I hate to say it because we always forget him because he was a generational talent. And Sandoval's probably not going to get to guess here because I think this is the answer that we're looking for.
Okay.
Earl Campbell.
Well, I will tell you, Rick, Earl Campbell only played 31 games in his first 2 seasons. He was 1 game short and still is tied for the number 1 spot all time with 32 rushing touchdowns in his first 2 seasons.
That's amazing.
You want to talk about one of the greatest running backs to ever play the game, who was maybe one of the most underrated running backs when you look at the modern rankings now? Earl Campbell changed the way running. If it wasn't for Earl Campbell, you wouldn't have Eric Dickerson and you wouldn't have Barry Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
So Earl Campbell was, and obviously before him there was Gale Sayers and Jim Brown, but Earl Campbell was the guy who really made that impact. I have a very, very fair spot in my heart for Earl Campbell's running style because of just the way he was so fearsome. And you know what? He was on the Oilers and they didn't do anything. They were in a tough AFC in the 70s and 80s, and Earl Campbell was always played his heart out, but never got there, never got to a Super Bowl. It's a shame.
Nice. Hey, that happens in sports sometimes. The greats, sadly, they don't always get a fairy tale ending. It can be a nightmare sometimes. But
yeah,
what wasn't a nightmare? We went 2-0, Rick. Let's go.
You know what's funny? All 3 of us got an answer. I mean, you got 2, so you held down the fort, but Sandoval stumped Justin, and then we got through it. We got through it at the end with our classic NFL names. So I think we did good.
You guys had a good day. Sandoval's typing skills are really getting fast. So.
Oh man, he's taking computer literacy classes on the side in England. That's why, like I said, MI6 training with those Persol 90s glasses on.
Oh man,
he's going to be the next James Bond.
Beautiful. I mean, I will say. I thought this when we were on the first question, Rick. If Justin ever wants to stump us, it'll definitely stump me. But if he ever asked the question, like name 3 quarterbacks that played with Barry Sanders, I'm like, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I literally know just Barry Sanders on those Lions teams, and that's it. I could not name a single quarterback that ever played with Barry Sanders.
Joey Harrington, John Kitna, and I think Jeff Blake.
Joey Harrington played with Barry Sanders.
Yeah, Joey Harrington, I think, came at the very end of his his time there. So I believe he did.
Did Culpepper ever play with the Lions? I know he bounced around a lot
Dante
towards
Culpepper?
the end of his career.
I wouldn't think so.
The Vikings.
The Lions? No, I don't know. Who'd Culpepper?
You're right, Drake. It wasn't Joey Harrington. He was 0-2.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think whenever I think of Lions quarterbacks, I think of Joey Harrington because why not?
Fair enough. No, I don't think Dante Culpepper ever went to Detroit. The only teams I could think he played for, Miami.
He went to Detroit.
He did?
The very end of his career, 08 and 09, he was there.
Wow, so he was Matthew Stafford's backup quarterback?
I know. I don't know if he was Matthew Stafford's backup quarterback, but I feel like he
played there the year before.
Yeah.
They drafted
and then he went to the Sacramento Mountain Lions of the United Football League.
Uh-huh. It always ends with a UFL reference, ladies.
It has to. It has to end with a UFL reference. Give love to one of the worst leagues in football history.
So speaking of giving love and speaking of decisions, choices, and all that, I think we at least one round of this. Maybe we got two in the chamber. It all depends on Justin because of course he is the game show host. He's the next great game show host in this Star Spangled Country, ladies and gentlemen. Our other game that we love playing on a weekly basis, NFL Would You Rather, is always a fun time. Justin, usually it's him. Sometimes I've given my own Would You Rathers on the rare occasion he's out, but Justin gives us two choices or sometimes more. And it says, guys, take your pick. So Justin, give us this Would You Rather.
Well, with the first one, I'm going to stick with our standard theme, and I'm going to stick with the standard question. Who would you rather have in their prime, Adrian Peterson or Derrick Henry?
Wow. So Derrick Henry's prime is currently now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's been the last couple of years.
So prime Adrian Peterson versus prime Derrick Henry.
No foot injury. Played that whole season last year and probably broke the rushing record for by 1,000 yards.
See, I don't know, man, because for me, I still hold it for myself. Adrian Peterson is the best running back I've ever seen in my lifetime. Now, granted, I have a very small lifetime, and I probably will end up having a small lifetime when it's all said and done. But in my lifetime, Adrian Peterson is the best running back I've ever seen. Just over such a stretch and period of time. But I guess Derrick Henry would probably have to be my number two. I don't know. Because I will say this, I didn't start watching football until after LaDainian Tomlinson's MVP season. And really after towards the end of his peak years with the Chargers. So I didn't get to watch a prime LaDainian Tomlinson. LT, I didn't get to watch prime LT. Jesus Christ, his name's still
LT 2.0.
Exactly. LT 2.0. The running back LT.
Yes.
It's a fight for me between nostalgia and is Derrick Henry the better running back? But Adrian Peterson's not bad back. I don't know.
I don't know if we've ever seen a power running back with the tools that Derrick Henry has. I mean,
that's the thing. Yeah,
he's got the power. Oof.
Look. There was something smooth to Adrian Peterson's game. He wasn't. Derrick Henry is that mean running back like Justin was talking about, but I don't want to say it like this because it's going to sound like an insult, but I'm not going to insult him. There was an elegance to the way that Adrian Peterson ran the ball that I think was unmatched at the time. Now, I grew up, and Justin, we're close to the same age. I grew up in the time of Adrian Morrell and Curtis Martin, and Richie Anderson was the fullback for the Jets. So I was spoiled by that. Not really, but whatever. I go Derrick Henry because I feel like while Adrian Peterson in his first 4 years rushed for over 1,000 yards, which you cannot discount. But there's something about that north-south running style that Derrick Henry has where it's just, it looks like he will just run for miles. And when he gets the ball in his hands, he starts off and he almost immediately assesses the situation as to where the blockers are, where the hole is going to be, not where it is, but where it's going to be. And he finds that spot and he goes. Adrian Peterson was a turn on the Jets, watch me fly and do all of that. But Derrick Henry, there's a style that Peterson has, which I love, but I think Derrick Henry for me, now that I've seen him in his prime, now that I've seen, and again, it's a what could have been. With no foot injury this year, he would have gotten over 2,000 yards rushing. I think there's no question about that. And he's still young, so he's still got more years to go. You're talking about maybe the fastest start in a career since the Dickerson and Eric Campbell. in Derrick Henry.
Well, since he's been on the field, because if you remember,
True.
they drafted him, and then they had Felix Jones, and then they traded for another running back. He didn't really start a season as the starter until like 3 or 4 years into his career.
Yeah. They robbed him really.
Yeah. And again, it's the Titans since Eddie George have had a really and Chris Johnson too had a really difficult time with finding the right running back to fit their system, because they've always been the guy that's taken the number 2 from the SEC from the big power teams in the college. Because you said Felix Jones, well, Darren McFadden was the best guy coming out of college. They also had Lendale White, and Lendale White was Reggie Bush's foil, and we know who was better on the field. I'm just saying it.
Right. I don't blame you. I don't know, man. Like it's not that I haven't seen enough of Derrick Henry. Like we've seen Derrick Henry. I'm personally just going to stick with a prime Adrian Peterson, because I also still think, to me, aside from, I think it was, I always forget which Carolina Panthers linebacker was. I want to say it was Thomas Davis. Aside from him tearing his same ACL 3 times and still being able to play football after, which is wild. Adrian Peterson tearing his ACL late in the season in 2011, coming back in 2012 at the very start and still rushing for over 2,000 yards. It's still, to me, just a true medical marvel.
Yeah.
It can't explain. Look, at the end of the day, they're both extraterrestrials. They are both proof that we need to kind of doubt if we're the same species, because you will never convince me that I'm the same species as a Derrick Henry or a prime Adrian Peterson. You just can't. So I'm personally going to go with AP, but I'm not going to sit here and say Derrick Henry's wrong. Like, that's nowhere near wrong.
This one, there's no wrong answer to it, I think. Yeah.
There's no wrong answer.
Yeah. Well, we'll see when all's said and done. Let's hope Let's hope Derrick Henry can come back healthy this year and really put a cap on the fantastic career he's had so far.
Well, you weren't wrong when you started saying Adrian Peterson, though. He's still technically a free agent, so he could come back. You never know.
Yeah, but health is not his issue.
Well, yeah.
Age.
Although,
props to him. He did have a 1,000-yard rushing season in 2018. Like, the fact that he was still able to do it then, like, that's...
With Washington, right?
Yeah.
He was fantastic. Yeah, it was surprising that he's still on the field.
He's their lone bright spot.
Hey! You're probably right, but still.
Justin, we got one more would you rather this week, or?
Yes. Anyways, I'm gonna go a little off the beaten path. It's not really a would you rather. It's gonna be take your pick, ride your horse to the finish line, so to speak. And if you had to pick, which rookie head coach is going to have the most success this year?
Ooh.
So run through again
can you please refresh it?
The coaches and their teams.
Sure. So let me just bring up my.
So there's, I'll try to do it off the dome. So there's Hackett with the Broncos. There's
O'Connell with the Vikings.
Yes. There's Josh McDaniel with the Raiders, and there's Mike McDaniel with the Dolphins,
and Lovie Smith with the Texans,
and
Doug Peterson with the Jaguars.
Yes. The Saints also have
Dennis Allen. Right.
Yes. The Giants.
Did we get Dable?
Right.
Dable.
That's in there.
Holy hell, there were a lot of new coaches.
There are.
Did we say Eberflus?
Matt Eberflus? No, but we know why we didn't say Matt Eberflus, let's be honest here.
Did we say no, Indianapolis is not new. Let's see.
There were 9 new coaches this offseason?
This is nuts that there are. When you really step back and look at it, there are this many rookie head coaches in the NFL. It's crazy.
Well, do we want to say rookies? Because some of these guys are having their second and third shots.
True.
Well,
first time with a new team, we could say. So wait, if we're talking about rookie head coaches, Justin, do you want us to take
Todd
away
Bowles?
Lovie Smith?
It's up to you guys. How do you want to proceed with this?
How about this? How about we waylay the guys that have coached in the NFL before as like head coaches before?
So take out Lovie, take out Todd, take out Josh McDaniels.
Right. Thank God we take out Josh McDaniels. Yeah. So
Brian Dable, Hackett.
We got to take out Dennis Allen too.
Yeah.
Right. He's been head coach before.
Dable, Hackett,
Eberflus,
Mike McDaniel on the Dolphins.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just down to those 4 then, right? Dable, O'Connell. Yeah. Dable, O'Connell, McDaniel, Hackett, and Eberflus. So out of those 5.
Wow.
That's still a high number of rookie first-time head coaches.
5 first-time head coaches, and we double-digit teams that had.
Well, here's my reasoning for waylaying the guys.
Right.
Todd Bowles would be the obvious answer.
Right.
he'd be the obvious answer because of the system that he's got. So let's see a guy who's unproven try and lead a team.
So Eberflus we take out.
Eberflus is out. So that leaves Hackett, O'Connell. I know, poor Bears. Hackett, O'Connell, Dable, and McDaniel. I think your choices are one of two, honestly. Well, depending on who you ask. If you ask Justin, O'Connell's also in there as well, because the Vikings.
I like the Vikings this year.
That's nice.
Somebody on the podcast.
Somebody has to. Their mamas have to love them. So I'll start first. I think, and this is based upon my standings, but I don't think it's also based upon it's a good shout. I think Nathaniel Hackett with the Broncos has the best chance. You've got Russell Wilson in there now. And this is the guy who came from the Aaron Rodgers school of it's all about me. Russell Wilson seems to be the guy who's doing everything to get the team better. You've got a young core of talented offensive weapons there with Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy. Melvin Gordon is there as well. You've got a really mean defensive line. And you know what, too? And I know this is kind of like an intangible, but you just got brand new ownership that's got $4 billion in the coffer. You've seen how well Steve Cohen has done for the Mets at getting the guys that they've needed to get and how well they're currently doing. I hate to say that money talks, but money does talk. So if the Broncos can lure away a guy like a DK Metcalf and give him enough money, or lure away the biggest free agent next year because, they have $4.5 billion to throw around, I think is in the best possible scenario. I think if you ask me this question in a couple of years, if this was like maybe 2 or 3 years down the line, I would probably say Brian Dable, because I think the Giants are moving in the right direction. They're not there yet, but they're moving in the right direction. Whereas this is really kind of a 2 or 3 year gamble for Denver, because I don't know how many years Russell Wilson has left. So I think for right now, I think it's Nathaniel Hackett, but I don't know if that's going to be a staying power for him. I think Denver is one of those teams that, they've got a lot of difficulty because that schedule and that division is not really in their favor. But I think because they have Russell Wilson, they have a proven leader at quarterback, I think it's really going to give them a leg up. And I think Hackett's going to find an easier transition into coaching in the NFL because of it.
Right.
Rick, if I asked you the same question in 2 or 3 years, you'd already know the answer because it's 2 or 3 years past. And Jurg, why are you picking the Bears here?
I'm not picking the Bears.
Why aren't you picking the Bears? I'm going to say if all things were equal, if the coaches were still new, but the rosters were 2 or 3 years upgraded, I would say it'd be the Giants. I'd say Dable.
I was making a joke.
Yeah. But I mean, here's the thing too. Unfortunately, the way the Giants have been the last 6 years, there could be a new coach there in 3 years. You don't know because Judge, Shermer, and McAdoo haven't lasted. Who's to say Dable's going to last too? I hate to say it, but who's to say that?
So I think this season, the guy that has the best chance to be successful in just a 1 year time is Mike McDaniel. Matt Eberflus is on the Bears, out. Kevin O'Connell has Kirk Cousins, out. Brian Daboll has Daniel Jones, out. And Nathaniel Hackett, there's 3 other teams in that division that we're literally calling that division a bloodbath. This is going to be, like I've said in a previous episode, this is going to be the most bloodshed that we have seen since the Mongol hordes reigned over the Eurasian steppe back in the day. That's how much of a bloodbath. To
put it into an athletic perspective, though, Jurg, because, Mongol community be damned, it's the group of death in a World Cup, basically.
Yes. The AFC West is its own group of death.
Right.
It's utterly insane how the AFC West is. The AFC East is only one team they have to compete with. Now, is that team better than them? Yes, let's admit it. But they to me have a better chance in just one season for the wild card. I know there's the whole question between yes, obviously the quarterback situation is way more stable in Denver than Miami because you still have questions about Tua. Very much understandable. But I think Mike McDaniel learned under Kyle Shanahan, and Kyle Shanahan learned under his dad. The Shanahan coaching school of I will get any running back in this world 70-plus yards on double-digit carries is a real thing. And I think if anyone can fix the rushing and offensive line issues, I think McDaniel was the perfect hire. The way I see it is that I think if I plug in McDaniel to almost every single other team, I think he is able to make an amazing job. But in Miami, I don't think all of those coaches can make a similar impact. Maybe Brian Daboll could. I'll definitely give him that credit. And Kevin O'Connell by proxy because he was next to Sean McVay. because maybe he has a little bit of the same system because Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan are like kind of the Spider-Man meme to an extent, except one of them has a championship ring. But I would go with McDaniel. I'm kind of with Rick. I think if you put in the new quarterback, the eventual new quarterback the Giants will get, I probably would favor Brian Daboll in a couple of years. But as of now, and for just one season, I think it's that. And also, like, right as of now, this is completely as of now, but as of now, Miami's still looking pretty healthy for the most part. Denver lost Tim Patrick, who was going to be a massive weapon in that receiving core this season. And one less weapon, especially in the AFC West, it doesn't help you. Like, I know they still have Cortland Sutton, and like they're hoping for that next step. But this is the thing, you're hoping for the next step from Jerry Jeudy. In Miami, you don't need to hope for your wide receivers. You have Tyreek Hill, who we had plenty of discussion about him last week with. And then opposite of him, you have Jalen Waddle. We don't need to hope from Jalen Waddle. We know what he is last season.
Well, you still need to hope from Tua, at least, though.
True, but he definitely has the way better support system. And once again, at the end of the day, I am not going to favor in any way someone who calls himself Mr. Unlimited. So it's not happening for me.
You know that Ciara who did that to him.
I don't care. I don't care.
She had the goodies and he wanted them.
I still don't care.
But to one finer point too, when you mentioned O'Connell probably in a couple of years because of Sean McVay, look at Zach Taylor's first year with the Bengals after he left. Wasn't very good. Mm-hmm. It took him a couple of years to kind of get settled.
That's what I'm saying. Long term.
Long term, I agree with you. But short term wise, he also has Kirk Cousins, like you said. So it's. And
also, like, I know he's still great as of now, but Adam Thielen kind of looked like he slowed down a step last year. Like,
he did.
If Adam Thielen isn't, if he's not the definitive number two, like and it sucks because Adam Thielen is an amazing story. Like his whole story of making it onto the roster, it's beautiful. It's one of those things you love to see. If this is the time where Adam Thielen starts playing more like a number three receiver, that hurts. That's going to hurt him.
Yeah.
So and again, Kirk Cousins. I'm sorry, Kevin O'Connell. I don't like most of the quarterbacks that are in front of me. Like, no doubt I'm going to go with somebody else. But there's another amazing would you rather. Absolutely outstanding, Justin. And really the perfect segue for us because we just talked about teams and success and what coaches could do. Guys, we're not going to waste any more time with this. We went 8 straight weeks of talking the divisions. We are here finally. All of us are going to give our 2022 NFL playoff standings. Technically, even though the playoffs happened in 2023, this after the 2022 regular season. Semantics. We are here to give you all our 1 through 7 in the AFC and the NFC. And from a pre-show meeting, we're also just going to give you guys real quick the way that we see the playoffs working out too. So who wants to start this off? And more importantly, how are we going to start this off late? We didn't decide this before the show, so this is an on-air meeting that you're going to see right now, guys, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome into production.
Yeah, welcome to production.
Where's the wheel?
No, I didn't get enough time to set it up before. Do you guys want to go 1 through 7 or 7 to 1? How do you guys want to do it?
Well, we're going to start with AFC or NFC.
Yeah.
I say let's go NFC first. AFC is way more interesting.
Might as well go to 7 to 1, right? Although, I feel like at one point, no, 7 to 1, that's fine. I was going to say, I feel like revealing your wild card teams might reveal your top teams, but not necessarily.
But we've done that. I mean, it's
true.
We have in weeks past revealed who our top teams are going to be. So I think everybody knows who our division winners are going to be. I mean,
it's just about the order,
right? Those who are just tuning in on Facebook, it's brand new for them, but we're well aware of it. And this is the time where Sandoval is going to be typing into Google to keep track of the records because again, we've got a pretty big substantive bet on the line here, gentlemen. So gentlemen and deer. I suppose
we're going to have to hammer out those specifics also.
That's true. We need to take the bet under reconstruction because a certain player failed us. He failed.
We'll iron out the gory details over dinner at some point, I suppose. Okay.
So let's go. Let's go 7 through 1 in the NFC. Rick, do you want to go first? Actually, then?
Sure. 7 to 1 in the NFC, no problem. Yep. So let me state this. First and foremost, I think the one division that only has one team representing the NFC is the NFC East. And I think that, that's because of the fact that I think that division has been in the flux for 2 decades now. And so it's going to be a question mark as to who comes out of it. And I don't think any of those other teams are going to be good enough to survive. So my number 7 team in the wild card spot at 10-7 is New Orleans from the NFC South. I think because the Saints are in a division where, they'll obviously beat up on Atlanta. Carolina with Baker Mayfield, they improved. But I think their schedule is also pretty favorable for them. And look, they're not missing a beat because Dennis Allen was on Sean Payton's staff last year. And I think that's really going to be a key for them to really move forward and be a constant. So I have them at 10-7 as a wild card.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I get kind of funky. And again, you guys have known my divisional rankings, so you know where I'm going. Now, my number 6 team at 11-6, wild card out of the NFC West, the LA Rams. So again, like we know that Matthew Stafford has said that the elbow tendonitis is fine, and I only watched the first half last night of their preseason game, but John Wolford did not inspire confidence in him. If Stafford is to miss any time, I don't think John Wolford can really run that offense very well. I know they're a very good team. They just won the Super Bowl, but I also think Sean McVay is a guy who's not going to care about winning divisions. He wants to have his guys set and ready to go for the postseason because he knows they're going to get there. They don't really need to win a division. They don't need to be a big team that like comes out and step up big. They can win from a wild card spot. So I think they'll be 11-6 and the 6th wild card. In 5th place, also in 11-6, winning in a tiebreaker. You guys know what's coming from the NFC North, the Green Bay Packers. Look, again, my NFC is a little funky. But can you honestly tell me that after week 1, Sammy Watkins, that you trust any of these Green Bay receivers? And I'll get to you, Aaron Rodgers, in just a little bit because I got some words for you, Aaron Rodgers. Can you trust any of these Green Bay wide receivers to catch the ball consistently, aside from week 1, Sammy Watkins? And even then, week 1, Sammy Watkins aside. I mean, Bakhtiari's on the PUP list. They lost a really key defensive player, the linebacker, Zadarius Smith. Aaron Rodgers is a year older. He's a year angrier. I think there are teams that have just gotten better. Again, Green Bay, they're going to struggle a bit. I have them at 11-6. They're the number 5. They're the last wild card team. Number 4, 10-6-1, the NFC East champion, my Washington Commanders. I feel like Chris Russo doing the top 5 with you guys being Stephen A. Smith, being like, what are you talking about? Look, I think so. So here's my thing. Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson make up for me, arguably, maybe one of the top 5 NFC East 1-2 combinations when it comes to wide receivers. And Jahan Dotson's a rookie. He needs to prove himself as the number 6 team.
There's only 4 teams.
No, in the whole division, in the whole conference.
You said in the division. I was really.
I meant the conference.
I mean, they're not the best on
Justin, words fail me. Okay, leave me alone. It's Saturday, so
I was like, "Whose team are you on? Are you rooting for the Commanders there?"
I am. Damn right, I am.
Okay. No. See, just Justin, because their receiving core is so good, they have number 1, and you have to make a 5th one just for the other guys.
Exactly.
Gosh, I mean, I like Curtis Samuel, but what?
Yeah. So I think, yes, Chase Young is going to miss some time, but I still think this defense is excellent. I think they're a strong defensive unit. I think Deron Payne is probably going to be a monster this year. And I really think that this is a good year. This is a big year for Riverboat Ron. This is a year where he has to really kind of step out. And again, 10-6-1, they tie the Eagles on Monday night in Philadelphia, and Philadelphia riots because it's such a beautiful thing. It really is. So I think it's just the best thing possible. So they're 10-6-1. They're my number 4 team. So if you're keeping score at home, that means Washington, Green Bay in the first round. My number 3 seed at 12-5 on a tiebreaker, the NFC North champion Detroit Lions. I love this team. I really love this team. I really think this is a huge year for Jared Goff. DeAndre Swift is going to be impressive on the running back. They have an excellent wide receiver core. And Dan Campbell's hilarious during Hard Knocks. Dan Campbell gives me Rex Ryan vibes during Hard Knocks. So you saw how well that worked for the Jets in the first 2 seasons. Why not Dan Campbell? And if you're going to say, well, they only won 2 games last year, Cincinnati won 4 last year or 2 years ago, then went to the Super Bowl last year. You can see a big swing from a team. I give Detroit that candidacy to be that team. So Detroit's 12-5. They're the number 3 seed. The number 2 seed is the NFC West champion, the Arizona Cardinals. I am biting my tongue extraordinarily hard about this because I made that pick before Hollywood Brown decided to go 130 miles an hour on a straight road in Arizona. Awful. However, I think Kyler Murray is good enough to overcome all of that. I think they'll lose some games in the second half of the season that will allow them to, or not have them be the number 1 seed. I think they'll struggle a bit towards the end, but they'll have DeAndre Hopkins back, and who knows how much time Hollywood Brown's missing. And if he's missing time, you've got Andy Isabella and Rondale Moore, not to mention Zach Ertz, who is still an A1 tight end and a really good defensive unit. I think Arizona is a better team than a lot of people think, and I have them at 12-5 and my number 2 seed, which means my number 1 seed, bite my tongue again, Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Bucks at 13-4. Tom Brady's still the quarterback. I don't really need to say anything else. I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, this is a team that is going to run with Tom Brady no matter how he runs. I think they're number 1 seed for a reason, and I think they're just the best team in the NFC regular season-wise. There's arguments you can make, but I know we talked about it last week, Jurg. Who can stop the Rams? I had said Tampa or Green Bay. We both agreed on that. I think Tampa's the number 1 seed. Tampa's going to play for that regular season crown and really try and cement home field advantage because South Florida is a nice place to play in January. So I think it's going to work out for them. So I'll go reverse order 1-7. Tampa's my number 1, Arizona 2, Detroit 3, Washington 4, Green Bay 5, Rams 6, Saints 7. Just missing the playoffs for me are Justin's Eagles at 9-7-1 and the Baker Mayfield Carolina Panthers at 8-9.
Good to know.
So,
Good to know. All right. Well, I'll run through my NFC real quick. My number 7 seed at 9-7-1, and just for the people, I did records. I did this for all of you. For the Arizona Cardinals are my 7th seed at 9-7-1. I think some things got exposed with that team. I think DeAndre Hopkins being out the first chunk of the season is going to be really killer to them. I know they have some receiving depth, but I almost like Kyle Shanahan. Jesus, Cliff Kingsbury has not proven to me that he knows how to use some of his depth receivers, including Andy Isabella. And I think even though AJ Green is there, I think AJ Green, look, I love AJ Green. I'm a little bit biased because I really do love AJ Green, but he's just not there anymore. And the defense, I think a massive hit with Chandler Jones. I just think there's too many pieces that need to take that next step. And I still give them the playoffs. I still want to give them that hope because, like you, Rick, I am a massive Kyler Murray fan, and I do want the best for him. So I'm giving them the 7th seed, but it's by a very slim margin because I'll go to my outside looking in teams at the end like you did. At number 6, I didn't want to include them, but when I really looked at everything play out, I'm like, I guess I have to. At 10-6-1, actually tied with the 5th seed, and I don't know what the tiebreaker is, but they're just the 6th seed. The 5th seed is also 10-6-1, but the 6th seed for me is the Dallas Cowboys. I think because the NFC overall is still so wide open. Yes, Dallas did lose a lot. I just think there are just games where talent wins out. And I think they have enough talent on each side of the ball to at least make a play or two here and there to be able to still win it out. I think Dak Prescott is still supremely talented. They have at least a good running back duo. That's the key there, duo, because it's not just one guy that you can rely on there. I think that'll be the big ththing. But I have them being the 6th seed. And obviously, not winning the NFC is because, well, I tied myself to a certain team. And look, I'm a man of conviction. I'm going to stick by it. Do I want to? No, but I'm a man of my word. So I have the Cowboys being at 10-6-1 because, again, NFC so wide open. I think there's still an opportunity for them to make it, even if they can't win the division. My 5th seed, the other 10-6-1 team, the San Francisco 49ers. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean I have Trey Lance having like a Patrick Mahomes type first year where he sat his whole first year, then his first year actually playing, he just goes bombs away. It's not going to be that. But I think Trey Lance will be good and even sometimes great. But I think for the most part, it's going to be the rest of that team that does the work. Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and Brandon Ayuk. What other 1, 2, 3 in terms of receiving options would you rather have than those 3 guys if you're a young rookie quarterback? That's just an outstanding duo. Again, Kyle Shanahan, the direct descendant of the Shanahan tree of I will get any running back, any amount of running yards. He can do it with literally anyone. I'm convinced he can do it with anybody on this show, Sandoval included. There are some questions. I will admit I do have some questions about the offensive line. But again, part of that the Shanahan coaching tree is the offensive line. They can make good offensive linemen play great. Laken Tomlinson, before he did good the last couple seasons, would we have considered him a guy who would have gotten the contract he did? He makes good offensive linemen play better, so I'm going to put my faith there. And the defense. An amazing 2 linebackers there in Wagner and Greenlaw, and then you have Bosa, and I'm expecting a decent year from him, at least in Armstead. I think the pieces are there on the San Francisco 49ers defense to definitely win them quite a few games. They're my 5th seed. My 4th seed. Again, I have to stick with them because I said that they would be my division winner, and I very much regret this to this day. But I do have the Washington Reskins / Communists / Commanders as
Sorry.
as my number 4 seed. Once again, I kind of regret it, but as I was actually going week by week, I'm like, there are a lot of winnable games for Washington here, in part because they were bad last season, so they have an easier schedule here. I think the depth of receiving options they have, I think that's going to really help out Carson Wentz a lot before Carson Wentz ultimately chokes it in the playoffs. But I think there's enough there to help get them there at least. So I have them as my 4 seed. My 3 seed, there are definitely going to be some struggles for this team. I think especially early on, I had them struggling out the gate. But they're going to hit a stride where they're just facing teams that they're definitively better than. And I have the Green Bay Packers being at 12-5. I will say this, I do like some of their losses are going to be against some of the top teams in the league because they do face the Rams, they do face the Bucs. Those will be some big losses where I think the lack of experience will hurt them. But that defense played really well last season for a lot of the year. They played great in that game against the San Francisco 49ers, and they didn't really lose a lot of pieces there. And Jair Alexander is, to me, the best corner in the NFL, not named Jalen Ramsey. They have a much better linebacking core because they kept Devondre Campbell. And Rashawn Gary, who you actually learned about. You told me you learned more about him last week, Rick. He's poised to really have a massive season. So you have that. You have, I mean, you kind of threw it away, Rick. Pissed off Aaron Rodgers is the back-to-back MVP Aaron Rodgers. So I'm going to run with that. And also the running game, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon is an amazing running back duo. My number 2 seed. Just above the Packers. Again, I don't know what the tiebreaker is because I did this online.
I'll tell you when you're done because I have the whole procedure up. I'll tell you when you're done.
Cool. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are my number 2 seed at 12-5. I think Brady being there, of course, it guarantees a double-digit win season. I just think very similar to the Packers. I think some of the losses hurt them. I think that and it's not even so much their offensive line that concerns me. It's more the defense. The defense lost a lot of veterans. And I was never a fan of that defensive backfield, even when they won the Super Bowl. And they got a little bit worse in this past offseason. So it's very much one of those things where I think there's a lot to prove there. And that defense, I mean, if Levante David and Devin White are both healthy, then I think that'll carry a lot. But I have the Buccaneers at 12-5, easily winning the NFC South for me. And my number 1 seed, because at the end of the day, talent just wins it out sometimes. And this team, I'm not worried about an elbow injury. Not worried about their backup quarterback, who's a CFL legend, having to come in. Because I think you look at the defense, you have a Hall of Famer on the defensive line, you have a Hall of Famer in the linebacking core, and you have a Hall of Famer in the secondary. And on that offense, you have a top, I don't know what you guys rank him as, top 10 quarterback at least in the game. You have Cooper Kupp, you have Allen Robinson. Again, a guy who knows how to get running backs their stuff. I got the Rams 14-3 as my number 1 seed in the NFC. So going back, Rams are my 1 seed, Bucs are 2, Packers 3, Commanders 4, 49ers 5, Cowboys 6, Cardinals 7. Outside looking in are the Saints and Vikings for me, both at 9-8. So congrats, Vikings fans. I gave you above 500.
There you go. Tiebreakers go head-to-head. Best percentage in games played in the division, and then common games, and then within the conference. And then it goes strength of victory and strength of schedule. So because I did a quick flip just now where I had San Francisco losing to Carolina, put them 9-8 because I had them even then with Dallas at 6-11 in my ranking. San Francisco still had a better divisional ranking than Dallas did. So if that's maybe what happened, that's why you had San Fran over Dallas. Maybe they beat more teams in their division or they beat more teams in the conference, that sort of thing. That's the way the tiebreaking procedure goes. Yeah,
it could be that. I definitely know that I have the Bucs beating the Packers, so there's that tiebreaker.
Right. Yeah, so definitely.
That's my 1 through 7 in the NFC. But of course, there's one more man who has to give us his conference. And then after that, we have a whole other conference to get to, ladies and gentlemen. And that's where the spiciness comes in. But before we get to that, Justin, please, your 7 through 1.
Snap us back to reality, J Rabbit.
Yeah. Rick, how's the food there?
Where?
In the Nut House.
Hey. Trader Joe's pizza bagels are phenomenal, okay? Don't get it twisted.
You just put Washington, Detroit, and Arizona as 3 of your division winners. And Arizona is the most likely out of all of them.
Well, There's a reason why I did that too. When we go into everything else, you'll see what I mean, because I teased it a bit. We're gonna have some history here at the very end.
I tell you, I think we have some history already. I don't remember anyone in my lifetime ever putting all three of those teams as division winners. That's something out in the.
I thought to myself, what would Jimmy do? Because I'm looking at Jimi Hendrix. What would Jimmy do?
I don't know if that's how you should live your life, Rick.
Well, I've lived a good life as it is, so why not?
All right. Well, I'll start off with my guys, and at the 7 seed, I'm gonna stick with the NFC West, and I'm going to have the Arizona Cardinals. I do like their team a lot. They did lose a few pieces this year, and they have a rough beginning of the schedule, but it does soften up at some points in between. They will get DeAndre Hopkins back. It's been a long time since Hopkins has been healthy in the back half of a season. Hopefully they keep Kyler Murray. That offensive line is back for another year, where they had a lot of cohesion last year. So I have them at my 7 seed. I didn't do official records, or rather I left them in my work office, but I have them at 9-8 to 10-7, probably leaning more towards a 9-8 record. In the 6 seed, I have the New Orleans Saints. I think that they had a very, very strong start last year, and if it wasn't for Jameis tearing his ACL, they would have been challenging for one of those wild card spots. They get Jameis back now. They've added weapons at receiver in Jarvis Landry and Chris Olave. It's looking like Kamara is going to avoid suspension this year, which is going to be huge for them. They really need his offensive capabilities. And even though they did lose their big left tackle, Trevor Penning seems to be just an animal of a human being on their offensive line. So they should be good to go. And let's not forget, they had a top defense last year. They added 2 strong safeties in Tyrann Mathieu and Marcus May. So if those guys can stay healthy, they should be a really, really strong team in the NFC South. So that'll be my 6th seed. And at 5, no surprise, I have the Minnesota Vikings. I think they're going to benefit from an easy schedule. Their defense has a good mix of young players and solid veterans. And it's hard to argue what team in the NFC is going to have more weapons, more proven, talented weapons than the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, Dalvin Cook is an animal when he's on the field. Justin Jefferson is one of the best young receivers in the game, or if not the best young receiver in the game. And I mean, you got Adam Thielen, even KJ Osborne, Irv Smith Jr. They really do have like a lot of good young weapons that they can use to score a lot of points. And I think they'll do that against a lot of their weaker opponents. In the 4th seed, there is something we have in common, guys, and it's that we believe that the NFC East will be in the 4 seed. But I am a little more rational than you guys, and I am going to pick the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they are a much better team than the Washington Commanders. It's not even close. Ron Rivera is going to have a tough year. Listen, there was a few issues that the Eagles had last year. They didn't have great receivers. Their offensive line depth was rough because when guys got injured, they didn't have replacements, and they had Jalen Hurts running for his life. And then when he was able to pass the ball, he was forcing it to Devontae Smith. And they didn't really have good interior defense. And I think they addressed all 3 of those issues in the draft and free agency. I really do believe in the moves that they made. I love A.J. Brown there. I love the depth picks that they made at the offensive line. And Jordan Davis looks like an absolute monster right in the middle. So, yeah, like I said, there's a reason that they have not been repeat champions in the NFC East in a long time. And that's because when you're at the top of the division, you get the hardest schedule in the division. It's not really a great division. So I think the Eagles are going to take that, and they'll probably be around 9-6, maybe 10-7, but probably not 9-6, 9-7.
Timeout.
Right? Yeah.
Timeout. You had them at 12-5 during NFC East week, and I called you out for it.
I got to look at their schedule.
Yeah.
He left his stuff at work. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
I left my stuff at work. Yeah, okay. No, actually, didn't I have them at 13-4, and then you yelled at me?
No, 12-5, and then I called you out, and you said fine, 11-6, and I said thank you. Dude,
Yeah, they have a weaker schedule.
I watch our podcast back when I drive to work. It keeps me sane.
I don't.
I also love watching you get angry with Sandoval's. That's really the highlight of my day.
I'll go back to my record. I have trouble like when you aren't doing the records in front of you and you're not looking at the schedules and you're like, all right, well, I have these teams at this record, and I'm like, it's still the Eagles. So I'll go through the records. I'll make an official prediction next week. If that makes you feel better, Rich.
Great, thank you.
Fly, Eagles, fly. Yes. In my third seed, bring back the page that I had up. I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's hard for me to pick against them in a lot of games. I do think that they're going to have a better record than the Saints. Just because when you have guys like Tom Brady and veterans like Mike Evans along your offense and the running game and all that stuff, they should win a lot of those up in the air games. That being said, they're missing all three of their interior linemen from last year. It's a completely brand new offensive line. I don't love what they did with their secondary. Excuse me. Their secondary wasn't great last year, and they lost pieces, and I don't necessarily think they added pieces back. So there's a lot of holes. I expect them to go to the playoffs. I expect them to win their division. I don't know how far they're going to go, but with Tom Brady there, you can't really pick against them. They have to be a division winner in my mind. So I have them as my third seed. In second seed, you ready for this surprise, Rick?
I'm
you know?
Go for it. What do you got?
I have the Packers at 13-4 because they're the goddamn Packers, Rick. All right. They have the 2-time repeated MVP. Okay, a record-setting Hall of Fame quarterback who is honestly a surprise and should be a surprise in everyone's mind that he's only got one Super Bowl. Because, listen, he is a bad man. What they say about him is correct. He is a fantastic player. They have an excellent run game. Their receivers, they have a decent defense now. And look, there's no reason to think that any team in the NFC North is going to challenge the Green Bay Packers. The Vikings played them close last year. The Lions played them close in I think one of the games. The Bears were a football team. There's not a lot to think that any of these teams have made that humongous step to take over the Packers. So I have them at, I believe it was 13-4. And also I skipped the receivers for a reason.
I was gonna say, what about the receivers? I didn't quite catch that. Yeah.
That's why I moved on to the defense.
Justin, we have week 1 Sammy Watkins on our side.
One game. And then in my number 1 seed, I have the Rams. They have proven that they are among the top teams in the NFL. They are a fantastic team. They lost a couple of key pieces, but as far as I'm concerned, they've replaced most of them. I know you have your concerns about Whitworth, Rick, and so do I, but I think Stafford, if he can stay healthy, he looked fantastic in the preseason. I think Allen Robinson is going to be a step up from that kind of revolving door that they had last year when they had to have Van Jefferson and Robert Woods and Odell Beckham Jr. kind of fill in as that number 2 slot. So hopefully Allen Robinson can stay healthy. They should have their running backs back and healthy, and Cooper Kupp is still there. That defense is nasty, and McVay is an excellent play caller. So there's no reason to me that the Rams should not be at the top of the NFC. I have them there as my number 1 seed. And just missing the playoffs, I have the 49ers and the Cowboys. As much as I think the Cowboys are going to take a step back this year, they still have a very easy division. They play easy teams. They should have a winning record. It should be close to 8-9, 9-8. And the same thing with the 49ers. I'm not ready to believe in Trey Lance yet. And I'm worried about their key contributors because, again, all of them have injury histories. All of them, seem to crumble under some sort of pressure, like at least literally physically. So we'll see. It's they're teams that are certainly in the mix, but I don't see them making the playoffs this year.
So just my thing with the Rams, the reason why I had them where I had them was something that you said, Justin, last couple weeks ago kind of stuck with me, in that San Francisco's given them a lot of problems in the last few years. So I had the Rams at 11-6. I had them 3-3 in division because I had them splitting with Arizona and San Francisco. or I think I had them sweeping one of them, and then I had them sweeping Seattle. So or being swept. But because there's a lot of problems, and you said it too. Like San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan gives LA a lot of issues. So having them in the wild card and Justin having them just missing the wild card makes sense if you think that the same issues are going to be prevalent for them. So that's kind of why I had them where I had them. So,
I mean, hey, it's fair. We all have, of course, our team discrepancies and stuff, and that'll certainly make it interesting.
Tell Rick he belongs in the nut house one time. All of a sudden, he's defending all his teams.
Look, we call ourselves the sports agents of chaos, not redundancy. Someone's going to have to go off the deep end.
That doesn't mean I'm going to pull teams out of thin air and be like, oh, Giants.
You don't want a Bears-Texans Super Bowl, Justin? Really? Root for the little guy.
I will. I root for them in every game. I'm not betting on them.
Well, I mean, that's the first mistake. Prop bets, dude. Get the prop bets going.
Yeah. Justin Fields, over 50 passing yards.
Hey.
Over.
Yeah. Over.
Who knows what that seems. So that was our NFC. Plenty of fun, plenty of stuff to take away there. But let's move to the intriguing conference where, God, there's like 10, 11 teams that you could make a case for making the playoffs here. And who's going to make it? Who knows? I mean, we kind of think we know, so that's why we're going to give you guys our 7 right now. I will begin the procedures, actually, when it comes to the AFC side of things. Similar to the NFC, we're going to give you guys our 7 through 1, and then run through it at the end and give you guys some outside looking ins. Interesting outside looking ins for me personally. I was nicer to the 2 teams than I thought record-wise, but So on number 7, I have the Baltimore Ravens. I think fully healthy, I definitely think they could challenge for the AFC North crown. But I think there are just a couple discrepancies that I favor the Bengals over them personally. I'll get more to the Bengals in a few moments, but I have the Ravens at 11-6 because even without making it, like they are one of the few non-AFC West teams that you could actually realistically think could make the wild card. Lamar Jackson's a former MVP. They also added a little bit to that defense. The wide receiving core is going to be the big question, but I just think that ground attack is going to be so lethal because you also have to consider some of the top teams, even in their own conference, the weakness is the running game of opponents. So the Baltimore Ravens, they're mainly a running team. That 3-headed running monster of a rushing crew they have, their top 2 running backs and Lamar Jackson, just they could do some damage, and I think they will do some damage if they finally get fully healthy this time. So because like I said in our AFC North preview, as long as their running backs don't go to the emergency room in week 1, they'll be good. And they haven't gone there yet, so let's hope for the best. My number 6 seed is the Las Vegas Raiders. I've seen some people consider making the Raiders the division winners. I don't see that. I think the 2 teams I have above them in that division are obviously still more talented, and so I just give them a slight edge. But I will say when it comes to the Vegas Raiders, Devontae Adams is going to do wonders for that offense. I think he's really going to help open things up a lot for the other weapons there, and I think he's going to help Derek Carr look even better. Not Hall of Fame good, but still pretty good. And the defense, I think Chandler Jones there really helps out with the pass rush. The fact that they got Rock Ya-Sin, I think he's a very underrated corner. And the hits that cornerback room has taken, they needed a young corner in there, so I think he'll help. I just think that's a pretty good all-around team. And to me, the big thing is that I'm assuming 2 things about Josh McDaniels. Number 1, he's learned from his mistakes from his first time, which you got to give. Guys can learn from their mistakes, number 1. And number 2, I think he's finally learned from seeing all his contemporaries and coworkers try to do it. It's like, hey, if I don't act like I'm Bill Belichick, I should do a good enough job here. And from what I've seen as of this point, I think he's learned that. I think he understands that he's not Belichick because, good Lord, nobody is. And I think he's tried to coach it his way and the way that his players will best react to everything, not the Patriot way, because the Patriot way works in one place and one place only. So I think McDaniels has shown that early enough. If he can continue to do that, I think Raiders, I think it'll be pretty good for them. My 5th seed, they're my 5th seed on an interesting scenario. Once again, I don't know what the tiebreaker here is, but they're here. My 5th seed is the Kansas City Chiefs at 12-4-1. Look, at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes is still Patrick Mahomes. I still think that team is talented. He by himself, I'm scared of that man. There are not a lot of things in this world I'm scared of with Patrick Mahomes on the other side of things and picking against him. I don't like doing that a lot. So I'm fully confident that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes can take them out of a lot of situations. And there will be some games where they struggle. There will be some games that they definitely probably look like they're going to lose. But at the end of the day, it's still the Chiefs. And until and this is one of those things, and sometimes you can't foresee everything, but I need to see them fall before I really take them out of it. So I got the Chiefs at 12-4-1 for myself personally. I still think they're a double-digit win team without a doubt. I think anything below 11 wins, like even if you don't think they'll win the division, I think anything below 11 wins is that's the standard they've set. I think you really are picking them apart there. My fourth seed, they have a worse record than the wildcard teams, but hey, it's all about winning that division, baby. I got the Indianapolis Colts at 10-7. I think they are better than the Tennessee Titans. I'm never going to pick the Tennessee Titans to win this division. So by default, I have the Indianapolis Colts. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to have a really good year. We kind of mentioned it earlier. Funny enough, everything's tying back in this episode. I think Jonathan Taylor is going to have a really good year. I think he's going to really help Matt Ryan look good. I think Michael Pittman's going to have a great number one caliber receiver season, at least number one on his team. And I think the defense there has talent. DeForest Buckner, Darius Leonard, Kwity Paye could have a big season. And a really well-coached team. I like Frank Reich as a coach. So I think the Indianapolis Colts all they need to do is win the division. I think the AFC South is that division definitively where we're not going to see a second team. It has to be who wins this division. And I think the Colts will win this division. And again, also, Jonathan Taylor alone, it's a threat against the other teams. They might be the fourth seed, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to be an easy out come the playoffs. Like they can compete with a lot of teams just based off of the running game alone. Remember, they almost beat the Buffalo Bills a couple of years ago when they made the AFC Championship game. So there's that. My number 3 seed, I have the Cincinnati Bengals at 11-6, tied with the Baltimore Ravens. So I have a tiebreaker going to the Bengals. I want to say it's because of the division record I had for them. I'd have to double check, but I think there's something along those lines. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, along with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, that's an amazing wide receiving core. We're not even getting into the running back that is Joe Mixon. The much improved offensive line. Like I feel like we criticized the offensive line so much last year, and people are still pointing out to it, but we're ignoring the fact that they actually did add pieces, which is really weird to me. Like they added several pieces. One from the Cowboys, who the Cowboys stupidly let go. One from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in free agency. They just made additions. Alex Kappa from Tampa and Lyle Collins. Like that in and of itself, it's a pretty good job, if you ask me. So I definitely give the Tampa Bay talking about the Buccaneers again. I definitely give the Cincinnati Bengals the number 3 seed in the AFC. I'd give them that slight edge against Baltimore. They're literally tied. There's just a one win difference in terms of like the importance of the win. Number 2, I got the Los Angeles Chargers. I love the offseason they had. I think Brendan Staley, he was a rookie head coach last year. I think a lot of people forget that. And I think Brendan Staley's going to have a really good year too. I think he's going to learn from his mistakes. And more importantly, I think Justin Herbert's really going to show out. Once again, them and the Chiefs, as you can see, tied. I don't know where the difference comes in. I just know I have the Chargers winning this game. I want to say the difference I have is that I have them beating the Chiefs in one game and tying them in the other game. I think something along those lines is the difference I have between the two. So I think that's ultimately going to be it is for me. Because as you guys can tell, I like ties. I want more ties. So I have the Chargers as my number 2 seed because I think the differences they made on the defense is really going to help out. And the slow build on that offense, I think Mike Williams and Keenan Allen is just an absolutely just devastating duo for a guy like Justin Herbert to have. And of course, number 1, 14-3. So same record to the Rams. I got the Buffalo Bills. I've said it here. I've said it on a different podcast. I will say it on any podcast I ever appear on. But this is Buffalo's Super Bowl or bust season. The AFC is not as strong. Like the AFC is strong, but because the team that can come out is so wide open, I think this is a massive opportunity for the Buffalo Bills to do something in the AFC to make it to the Super Bowl. And I think what better way to do that than to guarantee you get home field advantage throughout the entirety of the playoffs. I think the Buffalo Bills want nothing more than to make sure that they don't have to leave home throughout the playoffs because bless you.
True.
They have played a playoff game in Kansas City. And Rick, I think it was last week or the week before we were kind of talking about it. Like, yes, the Buffalo atmosphere is amazing. The Kansas City playoff atmosphere, like several times, they've ran out of fireworks to shoot off after the touchdowns. That's how high octane they are. You got the best chance to beat the Kansas City Chiefs and to beat anybody, especially a team like the Chiefs, get them away from home. So that's why I have the Buffalo Bills winning and making sure they get that number 1 seed. And also in part, again, kind of like my Rams argument, it's just the talent. Like I think they're going to be so overwhelming in so many situations that they're going to be able to be the number 1 seed. And I also favor them in a couple of the high-profile matchups. One off the top of my head, I think they're going to beat the Packers. I don't think the Packers receiving core is going to be up to snuff by that game, so I have the Bills winning that one. And I want to say, I think I had them beating the Chiefs in their matchup, but I'm not 100% certain. I'd have to go back to see how I saw that one playing out. But I have the Bills
winning week 1 against the Rams.
Yes. Or wait. No. I don't think so. I think on paper the only high profile game I have them losing from memory is the Rams. And aside from that, I think they're going to win almost all the rest. And I think that's going to make a big difference there. So yeah, I have the Bills as my number 1 seed in the AFC, 14-3. Buffalo. I'm on your side here. I think you guys should be the favorites, but you got to prove it. Let's see if you do. So 14-3, Buffalo Bills. Now,
who just misses for you?
Oh, my bad. Yes. So my 1 through 7. So once again, Bills 1, Chargers 2, Bengals 3, Colts 4, Chiefs 5, Raiders 6, Ravens 7. Very similar right there, actually. Yeah. My outside looking in, the Miami Dolphins, the Tennessee Titans, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are the first 3 that came to my mind. I think the Broncos are going to struggle. I think they will. They're definitely also in the conversation. Like we said, there's double-digit teams that can make it, and the Broncos are certainly one of them. But I think the Broncos are going to struggle. I just think the AFC West, I still favor a lot of those teams in that division over them. I think that's really going to be the killer. We talked about the AFC West is going to cannibalize itself. I think the Broncos are going to be the ultimate victim of that. So that's how I have the AFC playing out. I'm torn here because I feel like Rick's is going to be really off the wall, but he also has to do his ranting after this. So I think to have a little bit of break in there, I think, Rick, we go with you next. What's your AFC West? What's your AFC as a whole looking like?
So, to your point, too, about Kansas City, they routinely break the decibel record for loudest stadium in pro sports at home games. So, there's no team that's not winning their division outside of the AFC West that's making the postseason in my book. I have all 4 AFC West teams making the playoffs. We talked about that. Here's my order. Number 7 at 10-7 is Kansas City. If they're going to have to go back to the Super Bowl, they got to win on the road every single game, and they're tied with number 6. And the tiebreaker is that Kansas City is only 1-5 in divisional games. And I'll get to that in a second. I think Patrick Mahomes is a force. I think Travis Kelce is a great tight end, but I'm very skittish about this wide receiving core, and their losses on the defensive side also kind of throw me. I look for this to be a down year for Kansas City. They'll still make the playoffs, but I really look for this to be a tough year for them going forward. I have Denver at 10-7 at the number 6 seed because I believe in Russell Wilson. I believe in this team, and I believe that he's going to be the difference maker. I think that the weapons that are there. I know they lost Tim Patrick, but they still got KJ Hamler. They still have Cortland Sutton. Their tight end room lost Noah Fant, but they still got Greg Dulcich, who they just drafted from UCLA, who's looking like a monster. And their defense is solid too. I think they're really looking like a good team all around. So I think this is the real test. It wasn't one player that makes the difference for Denver, and I think it is. I think Denver gets in as the 6th seed this year, 10-7. My number 5 seed is Las Vegas at 12-5. So all 3 of the wild cards are taken by the AFC West. This is Derek Carr's boom or bust year, and the fact that he has Devontae Adams to throw to. I said it in my AFC West prediction when we talked about that, and I still believe in it. Devontae Adams is going to get 2,000 yards in a season, and he's going to be the first wide receiver to do that. There's nobody better than Devontae Adams, I think, to get that receiving mark, and he's really going to be the difference. I mean, I know Josh Jacobs has kind of been a little wonky here or there, but I think he'll right the ship, and this Raiders defense is scary. They have Max Crosby on the D-line. You added Rock Ya-Sin, who you mentioned. Yeah, you lost Yannick Ngakoue, but at the same time, it's a very scary defense, and I think Vegas is going to be one of those teams that at 12-5 is going to be really frightening to go into a playoff game against. Which leads me to number 4 in this whole thing. I have the Bengals at 10-7. I have them winning their division at 10-7. I believe, much like the AFC West will cannibalize itself, the Bengals are going to struggle inside their division, but they're a talented enough team to overcome all of that. I think that Joe Cool is an excellent quarterback, and I like the way this team rebuilt their offensive line because he got sacked, 975.3 times last year, whatever it was. I love Jamar Chase. I think this is a very strong team, and I think they're the AFC champs for a reason. Run it back, do your thing, go from there. I have the Colts at the number 3 seed, 11-6. way back when we're going back into our very first division breakdown, I had the Colts winning all games in their division, and I still have that here. I think aside from my number 1 seed, they are the only team in the NFL that wins every game in their division. Matt Ryan makes a significant difference, and Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, that is a strong punch, and they're the team that added Yannick Ngakoue, so they're going to be even stronger on that defensive end. I mean, I think, Kwity Paye is going to have a nice year too. I like the Colts in a division that is really theirs for the taking. I can't see any team being significantly impressive in that regard. My number 2 seed, same record as – actually, no, I have them 13-4. You had them 14-3, but Buffalo is the number 2 seed this year. Again, number 2 and number 3 for me win their divisions going away, basically. I mean, number 1 does too, but 2 and 3, there's no contests, really. I think Buffalo is the most complete team in the NFL. I think that they'll lose some high-profile games here or there. I actually have them losing to the Rams, the Chiefs. I had them losing to the Patriots 1 game and the Bengals. I believe that New England at home is still going to be a tough game, and that could be Josh Allen's one-off game. Because I still think that Bill Belichick can drum up a defense that can get any quarterback confused. He can go back in time and bamboozle Johnny Unitas. That's how good of a coach Bill Belichick is, I think. Buffalo is the most complete team in the NFL. And were it not for, again, that one stumble against New England, I think this could be a team that could run the table. But they're a really tough team to beat. They're a tough out. And again, like you said, this is your boom or bust year. This is your Super Bowl or nothing. And for a city that needs something huge, and for a franchise that has been to 4 straight Super Bowls in the 90s and didn't win a single one, this is their best chance to do it, honestly. Which leads me to my number 1 seed. And again, when we talked about this, I know it was a big surprise back then. I'll preface it like this for all of us here in Facebook land. Carolina went 15-1 back in the mid 2010s. And it was an out of nowhere year. Cam Newton led that team to an almost perfect season. It was totally out of nowhere, and they went to the Super Bowl. And gosh darn it, Peyton Manning finally learned not to throw a duck, and he won the Super Bowl for Denver. The Chargers for me go 16-1. They only lose 1 game to the Rams because, like you said, Jurg, Brandon Staley was a rookie head coach last year, so he made his mistakes and he's learned from them. The Chargers in the offseason, I think, won the offseason. Sorry, Christian Kirk, you didn't win the offseason. I think the Chargers won the offseason. It's very close. The fact of the matter is that Justin Herbert is a year older and a year wiser. Keenan Allen is an excellent wide receiver for him to throw the ball to. They've got weapons galore on the offense. Their defense got a lot better. They added the best defensive back, J.C. Jackson, from last season. This is a scary team. Now, again, they could get hot at the right time, and that's why I have them going 16-1 in the regular season. The real question is going to be when we get to the playoffs, how are they going to do? So I don't really know. I know, but you don't know, but I know. So I just think they're a really good regular season team. The Nut House is making macadamia nuts and Brazilian cashews over here. So, yeah, that's basically the way it's going to go for me. Chargers 16-1, they're the 1 seed. Buffalo 13-4. Indy 11-6. Cincinnati 10-7. Vegas 12-5. Denver 10-7. The tiebreaker over Kansas City. My teams that are just on the outside looking in, I have Miami and Baltimore both at 9-8. And then I have Jacksonville, and I still believe in this, even though it's crazy, the Jets at 8-9. Just missing out. To your point about Miami, they're a good team, but I don't know if Tua is the answer. And Baltimore, it's a big if they can stay healthy, because they weren't healthy last year. So you hope for the best, but there's a lot of question marks for me in that injury side. So that's why I don't have them in.
Yeah, so Rick going for the full sweep of the AFC West. I can't blame him. I mean, I went for the full sweep of the NFC West before last season because I thought it, and then Russell Wilson got hurt. So may or may not be part of the reason why I don't like Russell Wilson. But you can't, like, we've already said it. There is double-digit caliber teams in the AFC that can make the playoffs, and only 7 of them can get in. 3 to 4 teams are going to miss out, and definitely at least 1 or 2 of them, it'll be up until the very end of the season, and it wouldn't surprise me at all that we could have a very hectic Week 18 in regards to everything. Justin, although I will say, Rick, I do like Tennessee Titans not even sniffing the playoffs. Love it. Justin, your AFC playoff picture, how are we looking?
We're looking different, that's for sure, especially compared to last year. So I guess we'll start with our 7th seed, and I am going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. I do like what they did in the offseason. I think they had a lot of missing pieces that they needed to address, but I think it's going to take some time for them to really re-solidify that team. There are holes all along the roster, in my opinion, pretty much all of the position groups. So I do think they win. I think that their offense is still going to be high power. They still have Mahomes. They still have Kelsey. I do like the receivers that they added, but I don't think it's enough in that tough division. I have them in the 7th seed. In the 6th seed, I have the defending AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals. Again, this is another team. I love some of the moves they made in the offseason. I love the offensive line additions. I think that was the most important thing they could have done. But there's still some issues with that defense. Can they get after the running back? Can they get after the quarterback? I know they had some quarterback pressures last year. Their secondary was not fantastic. So such a high-powered AFC where they're going to be playing teams that could throw the ball left and right, they're really going to need to step up and play well in that secondary. I don't know if they have what it takes to come out of that division with such a tough schedule. In 5th place, I took the Chargers. I think this is a major step up for the Chargers. It'll be the first year that It'll be the first year that Justin Herbert has made a playoff.
You always confuse them.
Yeah. This has been the first year that Herbert makes the playoffs. They have improved, but again, there's something about that division cannibalizing itself that makes me think that some of the better teams are not gonna necessarily come out as the division winners. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go. I do like the moves they made in the offseason, but there's still question marks along that team that I think need to be answered, and it may come down to them in a lot of those strong divisional games. In the 4th seed, we all agree the Colts are going to win that division. I agree with Rick. It's really their division to lose. They shouldn't have that much competition. I really don't believe in what the Titans are doing at this point. Again, I love Derrick Henry. He is fantastic. I don't love their offensive line. I didn't really understand trading A.J. Brown to get back 2 receivers, one a rookie and one a veteran, that have medical issues. And without Derrick Henry on the field, they're going to have issues. I don't love their defense, and I don't love their offensive line, which means it's either going to be Derrick Henry, who's coming off a foot injury, which can nag, or Ryan Tannehill throwing the ball to receivers I don't necessarily believe in. So I have the Colts winning that division. Here's where things get a little topsy-turvy. In 3rd, I have the Bills. And I know everyone is picking them as their favorites. They're going to be so good. They're the most complete team in football. Their holes are glaring, in my opinion. And frankly, they had one of the easiest schedules in the NFL last year. And they did decently. But they should have been the number 1 seed, and it shouldn't have been close. I mean, they played the Jets twice, the Dolphins twice, the Patriots twice. They played the Jacksonville Jaguars. They played the Washington football team. They really should have been a lot stronger last year, and they could not stop the run. They didn't have a run game. Those are 2 major, major flaws when you're a team, because it makes you one-dimensional on 2 sides of the ball. So I do think they did their best to try and invest them in the offseason. I don't necessarily know if I believe they did. It is still their division to lose. I do not see any team challenging them to win that division, and they win the games that are supposed to. I think they're well coached, but I do think that they're kind of one-dimensional in spots. I only have them as the 3 seed. At the number 2 seed, I have the Las Vegas Raiders, and I think that that's going to be a benefit of that cannibal division. I do think that the Raiders have made some very underrated moves this offseason. They did lose Yannick Ngakoue, but they did get Chandler Jones. They added receivers like Devontae Adams. They've made really solid moves. I think McDaniels is an excellent offensive coach to really manage what Carr's doing. They have the weapons. I mean, even if Josh Jacobs is unhealthy again, they still have Kenyon Drake there. They really should be an excellent team. They should be competitive in their division. I'm not saying that they're going to go, 16-0 in their or 6-0 in their division, but I do think that they'll win enough games to come out of that division and be the division winner, purely based on their strength of schedule and teams they play and the way their schedule shapes out. And number one, I have the Ravens. If they are healthy, they are among the best teams in football. When Lamar's on the field, he's an MVP candidate. They've revamped their offensive line to protect him. It's the first time in a long time they've had all of their players healthy, and we're almost through week 2 of training camp. There's no reason to think that they shouldn't stay healthy. I hope. J.K. Dobbins.
Knock on wood.
The one really pitfall I have of that team is the receiver room. But, hey, this is a team that ran for 43 consecutive 100-yard games, in recent memory. So, they really, if they are healthy, they should be the cream of the crop in the AFC. And they were, third-place team in that division last year? They should have an easier schedule. They have a healthy secondary. They made huge additions in Marcus Williams and the rookie that they drafted out of Notre Dame,
Kyle Hamilton. Yep.
Which was another major hit that they had last year. Marcus Peters comes back. They have Marlon Humphreys in the secondary. They brought back Calais Campbell. Their linebacking core is always strong since the 2000s, as far back as I can remember. They've had a strong linebacking core. They should have an excellent defense. They should have a fantastic running game. If Rashad Bateman can catch a few balls, they're going to be a nasty team this year. So I have them benefiting from the easy schedule, capitalizing on the Bengals' rough schedule and the target on their back being the defending AFC champions. I have the Ravens winning that division and the AFC.
Wow. And it's certainly, and you bring it up, that their other first-round draft pick that they got because of that Hollywood Brown trade, Tyler Linderbaum, the best rookie center that's come out in quite a while. And you get a guy like that to now anchor the offensive line straight in the middle. And a really good center will make your guards play at a higher level. I don't think people realize how important the center is. I personally have always been one to argue that next to the left tackle, the next most important position is center on the offensive line. I think if Tyler Linderbaum can be what we are all expecting him to be, then I think ultimately we are in store for a supremely surprising season from the Ravens. Didn't have them as my number 1 seed, obviously, but again, this is the thing with the preseason.
Forgive me for 1 second. Forgive me for 1 second. What? The Ravens at number 1? Hold on. I have a way to describe how I feel right now. What?
Listen, they're a good team. They were a good team last year, and they were one of the most injured teams in the NFL. They still have Harbaugh there, who's a good coach.
What?
They still have Lamar, who's an MVP quarterback. They, in theory, they should be a very good team this year. And they were a third-place team last year, which, again, means their schedule is going to be a lot easier than some of these other teams on the list. They're not in a division like the AFC West where they're going to play all these difficult teams. Forgive me if I'm wrong. They play the NFC East this year? Is that correct?
I think so. What?
They should have a easier schedule.
No.
Or no.
NFC South.
NFC South. Oh, still
AFC
easy. Come on now.
They play the Giants.
Still.
They play the Giants.
Oh, they're going to go 6-2 in those games.
I could have swore they played the Giants. So, that's
like the one outlier. Like
they're playing all the third place teams. They play the Bucs and the Saints, but I don't necessarily believe in the Falcons and the Panthers. The Panthers might have a good defense, but they should still lose to the Ravens. They really should be among the top teams in the AFC this year. I'm not necessarily saying that I think they're going to win the Super Bowl. They should be a absolutely candidate to win that number 1 seed.
It's really intriguing. Like, you have them as your first seed. I have them as a wild card. I think, like I said, I think they're the only. I think between all the non-AFC West teams, I think they are the ones that could break them, or the Bengals, who it depends on who your division winner is. But at least for me, I think they're the only team that can disrupt what Rick's perfect scenario is in terms of having all the AFC West teams make it. So I do understand. Like Rick, to be fair, I don't think this is that big of an if. Lamar Jackson stays healthy, they make the playoffs. That's not that big of it. All we're saying is let them keep their starting quarterback to end the season, and they're making the playoffs last year.
They would have last year, yeah.
It's cut and dry. The Steelers are not making it on to end what Big Ben's final season was in all the tears and all that BS that they shouldn't have made it. And I'm not saying it because I hate the Steelers. I'm saying it because I'm just so happy Ben Roethlisberger's not in the league anymore.
Well, yes.
Like they would have made it last year. So for Justin to go to that leap, and also when he was the MVP, I think were they not the first seed or the second seed when Lamar was the MVP? It was one or the other. They were top. They were top.
I don't remember if it was the first or second. I don't remember if it was the 7-game playoff.
So Jerk, my point is this. My thing about the Ravens and why I have them as like my 8th best team is because I believe that Lamar Jackson is the 8th best quarterback in the AFC. Because I think Derek Carr is better than him by a little bit. I think Patrick Mahomes is obviously
better than Lamar Jackson.
I think so. I think Patrick Mahomes is clearly better. I think Justin Herbert has shown little flashes. I think Russell Wilson's body of work shows that he's better. I think that Josh Allen is better. I think Matt Ryan's body of work is better a little bit. And I think Joe Burrow's better.
You're putting Russell Wilson, Matt Ryan, and Derek Carr ahead of Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, because Lamar, like, here's my thing. Lamar Jackson needs to stay healthy.
After your dinner there?
Wait, repeat that, Justin?
Yeah, I want to know if he gets Jello with like a plastic. Do they give you plastic? Does it have to be rubber spoons over there?
Listen, I think Lamar Jackson is a very talented quarterback, but at the same point in time, I feel like I need to see another full season of him because I think injury concerns are significant enough that again, last year was an aberration, you can say, sure, but who's to say that it's not the same case? I think
Jackson's got more MVP votes than all of those guys combined in their entire careers.
Because that's just the trend now, is that everybody loves
he's a better quarterback today. I'm not necessarily saying in their prime. Maybe Russell Wilson when he won the Super Bowl. Maybe Matty Ice. These guys, neither one of them has made the playoffs last year. They are not. And fine, Russell Wilson was hurt.
That Seahawks team was not good enough. They would not have made the playoffs.
If you want to take a quarterback in any setting today, you're taking those 3 guys over Lamar Jackson.
Call me crazy, but yeah,
I have several times so far.
You have, and it hasn't hurt me once. I have very thick skin, but at the same point in time, that's my belief.
Rick, I just disagree with your football take on that. That's out there for me. And listen, I'm a Derek Carr defender. I like Derek Carr. I think he's gonna have a great season this year. I do think he's gonna take a massive step forward. But I would never take Derek Carr over Lamar Jackson. At least not today's game. Into the season, I'm not taking. And if you want to say take the quarterbacks out, but match the teams up. I mean,
Ravens wide receiver room for me loses it for them.
They're a bad wide receiver room. I'll give you. They are the worst wide receiver room of all 4 of those teams.
Then who's Lamar Jackson on the
running game out of all 4 teams? And I know that one team has Jonathan Taylor.
Right. Granted, but then in that regard, you think
Mark Andrews is better than anyone on any of those other teams? Who's got the better defenses?
I think Indy and the Raiders have improved.
They've improved. Do they have a better defense? The Ravens had the number 1 run defense.
The Ravens have a brand new D coordinator. He's unproven. I'm not ready to anoint Mike McDonald the next Wink Martindale yet. I'm not ready to do it.
We can argue this for hours.
Yeah.
Let's get.
I'm also relatively calm because I could argue and I could get ranty, but I'm very relatively calm because I know what's coming next.
Well, we need you for the rants, so that's part of the reason. Now, real quick, and we're going to do this real quick. The playoffs.
Playoffs.
Yes, our playoff pictures. I'll go first here really fast. For the way that I see everything playing out for my personal playoff. So just to remind the people, I have the Rams and the Bills being the 2 teams that get buys in each conference. In the AFC, in those matchups, I have the Chiefs defeating the Indianapolis Colts. I have the Bengals defeating the Raiders, so a redux of that wild card game last year. And I have the Chargers defeating the Baltimore Ravens. in the AFC. In the NFC, I have the San Francisco 49ers defeating the Washington Commanders. I hit that jab at Carson Wentz for a reason. This is where that comes to an end. I say he gets sacked like 6 times in this game, and he probably twists both ankles for some reason on a play because he's done it before and he'll do it again. I have the Green Bay Packers defeating the Dallas Cowboys because I'm not giving anything to Mike McCarthy, and also just Rodgers owns the Cowboys and the Bears. And I have Tampa Bay Buccaneers beating the Cardinals, but I will say this, and it depends on how the Tampa Bay defense looks. That could be a close game. I think Kyler Murray would actually be I think Kyler Murray could give the Tampa Bay defense problems if they aren't up to snuff this season, as I'm expecting. Going to the divisional round in the AFC, this time the Bills slay their demons. I have the Bills defeating the Kansas City Chiefs, and I have the Chargers just barely defeating the Cincinnati Bengals in a game right there. I hope it goes to overtime, I'll say that. In the NFC, I think the inexperience of the Packers in a lot of places is going to cost them. I think the Buccaneers beat the Packers, and I think the Rams will beat the 49ers in a rematch of the NFC Championship game, because that's where Trey Lance also comes into effect, where he's just not enough to help them win that game. AFC Championship game, the Buffalo Bills win it. NFC Championship game, Rams Buccaneers. I got a lot of rematches in this, just now realizing it. I have the Rams winning that, so they win part 2 of that as well. And in the Super Bowl, Los Angeles Rams, Buffalo Bills. My Super Bowl champion for this upcoming season is the Los Angeles Rams. I have them repeating as the Super Bowl champions. Another Super Bowl on the resume of Sean McVay and Aaron Donald and Matthew Stafford and Jalen Ramsey, cementing at least Aaron Donald definitively being a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, he is, but let's be real here. 2 Super Bowl, back-to-back Super Bowls, just concrete that he's going to be first ballot. 2 Super Bowls on Jalen Ramsey's resume. To me, that does really good. 2 Super Bowls on Sean McVay's resume. He could retire and he will cement himself as going into the Hall of Fame. 2 Super Bowl championships, 3 appearances, being an innovative coach. Matthew Stafford continues to up his resume, trying to make a case for himself here in the final portions of his career. So I have all those guys. And Cooper Kupp, another Super Bowl as well on that resume. Keep adding the accolades, boy. But yes, I have the Rams winning the Super Bowl, and I have the Buffalo Bills just on heartbreak. Before you succeed, you must first learn to fail, and I think it'll be a learning experience for the Buffalo Bills. So I have the Rams beating the Bills in my Super Bowl personally. Rick, your playoffs.
I don't know. I'm feeling kind of hurt right now, man. I'm feeling kind of like Justin's. Justin's hurt me. Well,
Justin loves you. You know that.
Yeah, of course. That's all for show. Okay, so look, the hallmark of my predictions have been chaos, so I'm going to stick with that chaos. And if it wasn't for Kansas City in my first round playing Buffalo, I'd have them going further than I do. So in my AFC, my first round, I have Buffalo beating Kansas City, exercising those demons. I have the Colts knocking out Denver, exercising those demons of what I'm not quite sure, but maybe Peyton Manning demons. And then I have the Raiders upsetting the Bengals. So I have, in that respect, I have the Raiders being the only wild card team to go. I then have the Raiders knocking off the Chargers. I have them knocking off the Chargers. I think the momentum's going to go on their side. And I have Buffalo playing Indianapolis. So the AFC title game is Las Vegas going to Buffalo. And you know what? Josh McDaniels is going to confound Buffalo. So I'll take the 5th seed Raiders going into the Super Bowl. Wow. So, yeah. And now let's move to the NFC. All that bluster and all that hype don't mean a damn thing, because Arizona, Washington, Detroit are all losing in the first round. Get the hell out of here. Get out. New Orleans going over Arizona, the Rams over the Lions, and the Packers over Washington. That means that in the
you did that on purpose so you could have all 3.
Absolutely. So in the NFC divisional round, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers hosting the New Orleans Saints. I have them winning. And then I have the Packers hosting the Rams. And you know what? Aaron Rodgers is a mean, mean man. The Rams go goodbye. Packers, Buccaneers, NFC title game. And this cements it. Packers over the Buccaneers. For the first time in NFL history, like I said, crazy, 2 wild card teams make the Super Bowl in the same year. It's never happened before. Go look in your history. 1 wild card team has made it, but the other conference has always had a divisional winner. It's never happened before. We have a wild card versus a wild card this year. It's the Raiders and the Packers. It's Devontae Adams against his former team. And you know what? Aaron Rodgers was better all along. The Packers win the Super Bowl. Rodgers gets a second, and he rides off into the sunset to go host Jeopardy. Green Bay wins the Super Bowl over Las Vegas. Let's keep the chaos dice rolling here. Let's go. Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun. Why not?
Might as well.
Yeah, why not?
Right?
All right. So I will start with my NFC, and I have the 7-seed Cardinals playing the number 2-seed Packers, with the Packers obviously taking that win. In the second game, I have the number 6-seeded Saints versus the number 3-seeded Bucks in the third game of that divisional game of that year between the two teams. I have the Bucks taking that one as well. And then at 5, the 5th-seed Vikings versus the number 4-seed Eagles. Well, I've been banging my drum about all year long. And guess what? The Eagles lose. They lose to the Vikings in what I expect to be a barn burner. Am I doing the entire NFC and then the AFC, or am I doing?
You do however you want.
Yeah.
I mixed them up the way I did it, so you guys threw me off.
No,
all right, in my AFC round 1, I have the Chiefs versus the number 2 Raiders in a divisional matchup, and I have the Raiders taking that one. I just don't think that the defensive additions and offensive additions of the Raiders are enough for the Chiefs to contain. In the 6-seed Bengals versus the number 3-seed Bills, I have the wild card team coming out of that one. I have the Bengals winning in a shootout, but I don't think that the Bills can keep up with the Bengals' weapons. The 5-seed Chargers versus the number 4-seed Colts. Again, we have a wild card team winning that one. I have the Chargers winning. I think that Joe Burrow takes a massive leap this year, and he's going to have a very good playoff game in round 1.
Justin Herbert.
What did I say?
You said Joe Burrow.
I did it again?
You did it again.
I did it again?
Hold on,
You
real
did it
quick.
again.
Time out real quick. So, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you wondering why me and Rick are laughing at this, there is a history on this podcast of, for whatever reason, Justin always confuses Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert with one another. I forget when the first time was. I want to say the first time ever was
episode 1.
Yeah. I think Justin did that like one time in the first episode. Then me and Justin did our own first. Me and Justin did our own first round mock.
It's him. It's the deer.
Then me and Justin did our own first round mock where he made that mistake several times. And I'm pretty sure he probably made the mistake at least once or twice between the AFC North and AFC West episodes. So
he's made it twice today so far. So yeah.
Yes. So all in all, Justin has confused Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, or in his mind, Joe Herbert and Justin Burrow on a number of occasions. So for the Facebook viewers, welcome. That is one of the inside jokes of this podcast. That's not even on purpose. Like he doesn't know.
Yes. That's Death Taxes and Trent Ball keep listing your picks. Death Taxes and Justin confusing Herbert and Burrow.
So wait, hold on. Actually, no, keep going. But so you have the Chargers and the Bengals winning. Okay.
I have the Chargers and the Bengals winning in round 1, as well as the Raiders. In round 2, I have Bucks versus Packers. And like Rick, I have the Packers taking that one in a close game with the home field advantage. And then I have the number 5 seed taking on the Rams. And big surprise, I have the Rams winning that one. So it will be the number 1 Rams seed versus the number 2 Packers seed in the NFC Championship. Before we get to that, I have the AFC to go through, and we have the number 6 seeded Bengals in a divisional matchup against the number 1 seeded Ravens. And I believe Lamar Jackson could win at least one playoff game. We've seen it happen once before, and I'm going to take him again over not Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, and the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't think that they have the opportunity to repeat this year. It is a very difficult thing to do, and they're going to fall just short by about 2 games. Then I have the number 5 Chargers in another divisional matchup against the number 2 Raiders. And this time, I do have Justin Herbert, not Joe Burrow, winning that game. I see the Chargers.
Turn the music down. We don't get copyright.
Chargers making it to the AFC Championship game. The winners of each championship game, I have the Rams beating the Packers, and I have the Chargers completing the All-LA Super Bowl this year. So I have the Rams and the Chargers. The winner is going to be the Rams. I do not see them taking that step this year. The Rams will repeat. Matt Stafford, again, like Jurg said, makes another step in the case for his Hall of Fame legacy and wins his second Super Bowl in a row.
So let me tell you a nightmare scenario that I was thinking about too while I was going through my picks. What if the Chargers and the Rams hosted both championship games on the same day, or they had to go on the same weekend in the same stadium? Yeah, that'd be a nightmare scenario for the NFL because you got to get that field ready in 24 hours.
That arena crew is they will earn their paychecks that weekend.
Yes, they would.
If they were both in the Super Bowl last year, who would have had the home field advantage?
The Rams probably would have, because the Rams would have had the better record. I think it's the better record that has the advantage.
Also, let's be real here. Like Kroenke mainly got that stadium. Like Spanos is just a tenant at this point.
Oh yeah, Spanos is the FedEx. He's the kid brother.
I could be wrong here. Maybe it was just like an idea from a video that I saw, but like the Chargers have to get their own stadium at some point. No,
I don't know. They couldn't fill the soccer stadium the year before.
I mean, fair, but still, like the Chargers, unless they win a Super Bowl in the next 2 to 3 years, like they are very below the entertainment tower in Los Angeles right now. Look, I don't care if they're bad. The Los Angeles Kings at least won 2 Stanley Cups within the last decade plus. Like they have that. The Chargers.
So, ironically enough, San Diego just got a brand new stadium.
Oh.
So, hey, Dean Spanos, remember the thing you were fighting for all those years ago? Well, it's happened after you left. So there's the door.
That's a major report that keeps coming out. They want the Chargers back.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, there's a lot of infighting in the Spanos family right now. I don't know if that topic has come up, but I forget who it is, but someone is fighting with Spanos currently when it comes to something with the Chargers and I think ownership. A lot of teams actually are having quite a few teams are actually having squabbles when it comes to family and the ownership and all that when it comes to teams. From what I've learned recently, I think
Broncos anymore.
Not the Broncos anymore, but I think there's a conversation with the Bears because there's the whole Arlington Park thing that they bought recently. The Saints actually, their owner, the
Benson family, right?
The Benson family. I forget what his first name, but Mr. Benson when he's
passed, dead, so it's Gale. Yeah.
No, but what I mean to say is he wrote their kids out the will to get the Saints. I learned that in a video yesterday.
I remember that.
He kicked their asses to the curb when it comes to getting the team. So I think she's trying to get someone to buy the team before she passes on so that it can't go to the kids. So.
Ties this in. Remember 2 weeks ago when we were talking about the Stephen Ross thing that I had to miss? I said, what are you going to do for 7 weeks without football? Spend time with your family. Then you kick out of the will afterwards.
So
you know that $1.5 million that he lost was going to be some kid's Christmas present this year. Let's be honest here.
Oh yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Me.
Oh man. So a lot of interesting things happening in the NFL, both on and off the field. And you just heard interesting picks for all of us. 2 of us have the Rams winning the Super Bowl. The other one of us has the Packers winning the Super Bowl and Aaron Rodgers retiring on top. Which, I mean, to be fully honest, if I had it my way, I would also have this same exact scenario here, Rick. So I'm with you. But yeah, that completes the Sports Agents of Chaos, much anticipated, long awaited playoff picture. There it is. We've alluded to it a couple times. We have a little bet that we're trying to formulate here in terms of who is closest to getting all the playoff teams right and the Super Bowl winner at the end of the day. We're gonna try to finalize those terms. We have an idea, but we need to reassess that whole thing. So let's
call it what it is. We all know that I'm losing because I went completely off the ranch here. So want something very exciting and fun, and I'll do it. It's fine.
Rick, I'm insulted that you would insult the integrity of this show by saying you didn't pick who you really thought was going to win all of these divisions.
No, I know I did, but listen, one game scenarios.
The show is at stake. You didn't go off the rails. You went with your heart. You truly believe.
No, I know. I mean, I'm versus the two of you.
The Redskins. I'm sorry, the Commanders are all going to win their division this year. I think you should put a bet on it. We should go to Vegas. You should make that a parlay.
Right. The Commanders, Lions, and Cardinals all winning their division this year.
Jesus, if I did that
again.
If I did that and I won that bet, oh my God, I'd be free from my contract.
Yeah.
Jeez.
You'd buy yourself out of the contract.
He would finance the show. He would finance the show's production.
Sports Agents of Chaos sponsored by me. All me.
Oh man. Speaking of Rick and things that are ran by him, the final segment, ladies and gentlemen, for our Facebook audience, this is going to be a fun time for all of you because this is honestly the highlight of the show every single week. I'm going to mute Rick. And Justin's apparently going to leave video wise. Rick, he's back. Rick, take it away. What is your rant podium this week?
Honorable mention. I know I just gave him the Super Bowl title, but Aaron Rodgers, don't disrespect your wide receivers like you just did this past week. You didn't play number one, so maybe they couldn't catch the ball because Jordan Love couldn't throw the damn ball. And number two, you've been asking for a wide receiver for how many years? And you tell the guys, listen, this is what I want you to do. Who are they to do what you tell them to do? I get it. I have you winning the Super Bowl. That probably puts more inflation into your already swollen-sized ego. It's $60 billion ego, if you will. But you need a team to win the game. It can't just be you throwing it to yourself, blocking for yourself, kicking your own field goals. You can't do that. So Aaron Rodgers, Aaron mentioned, don't disrespect your teammates. Like my friend Gorilla Nem says, don't ever disrespect your teammates like you're wearing TJ Maxx Nikes or whatever it is. Number 3, the first ever get off my lawn rant and podium. Chocolate. Why do you have to melt in the heat? I wanted Reese's Sticks in from Stop and Shop as like a nice post-errand snack, and the damn sticks were stuck together because the chocolate melted in the heat. Why does chocolate have to melt in the heat? I hate it. I could freeze it if I wanted to, but I'm taking it home, and I expect it in the air-conditioned supermarket to be cold and to be relaxed. It's not. I'm very angry about that. Very angry. Chocolate needs to be stored at freezer temperatures or at cold temperatures everywhere because it cannot melt. It's annoying when it melts. It's also just terrible for the hands. I don't want to get chocolate on my ring. Come on now. Why? Number 2, I love my Subaru Crosstrek. We all know this. However, we have to develop a system for cars that knows if there's weight on the passenger seat that's not a person. I had to drive home from the supermarket this morning with the passenger side alarm on because I had 2 cases of water in the passenger front seat. Back of my car was filled, by the way. I did a lot of errands this morning. But, hey, if my car crashes and the airbag hits, that bottles of water just, they're not going to go flying all over the place. They're bottles of water. They're not a person. They don't have organs. They're bottles of water. Come on. What? You want me to seatbelt in, click in the bottles of water? Oh, here you go, Poland Spring. Tuck yourself in for the drive home. Come on now. Really? Ridiculous. We need car sensors that know, oh, this isn't a person. It's not just the bottles of water. When my dog sits in the front seat sometimes too, it goes, hey, person in the front seat. No, it's a dog. I know we love dogs as much as people, but car sensors, it's not a person. It's a dog. It's bottles of water. Know the difference. Number 1, A and B. I said we're going to mess up some countries here. And before the show, Jerg, you had mentioned, so you can both mic up for this one. You had mentioned that you wanted to try and guess the countries that I was talking about here. So 1A, can you tell me which country was in the news recently trying to up its alcohol production or alcohol usage in a very specific way?
Wait, hold on. I definitely saw something regarding this, but I do not remember the country.
Justin?
No, I know I saw something about this. Come on.
No idea.
Oh, I'm so mad that I don't remember the headline. I don't have a guess.
So in a competition called Sake Viva, culminating in November, the National Tax Agency of Japan has invited people to submit business plans to promote alcoholic beverages to the youth and teens of Japan, basically. You're trying to get people who are underage to drink I don't even know how to describe what I'm about to describe. Your gross Sapporo beer and your sake?
Sapporo.
Fine, you can like Sapporo all you want. It's still the natty light of Japanese beers. I mean, come on now. Why are we trying to get younger people? And it's our liquor industry's been on the decline. So the answer is not having underage people. Did you see what happened in Indonesia with the smoking baby? You're going to have tobacco for babies now because of this? come on, Japan, we're better than this. Like, I understand, it's been a time of turmoil for you. The creator of Yu-Gi-Oh just died, so you don't really know what to do with your life. But come on, Japan, you're better than this. And 1A, can you tell me which country has decided to do something completely stupid and put Wi-Fi in a spot that doesn't need Wi-Fi?
Let's Sandoval Google this one. I'm sorry, Google this one.
I'm gonna guess. I'm trying to name like a really random country just for the fun of it.
Brazil.
Uzbekistan.
The country, gentlemen, is Tanzania.
I think I was closer.
And the place where they're putting Wi-Fi is Mount Goddamn Kilimanjaro. Because everybody needs to go up Mount Kilimanjaro and Instagram selfie themselves on top of the 3rd or 4th largest mountain in the world, and then check your goddamn Outlook emails for all of that stuff, while also knowing about your Bitcoin prices and, answering that text from your mother-in-law saying, do you remember to get the toilet paper? No, I'm in Tanzania, mother-in-law.
Why else would you climb a mountain like that?
For the prestige of climbing the mountain.
No,
not to
show
have
everyone your pictures from the top.
Oh yeah. So Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay climbed Everest in 1953 in an attempt to put Wi-Fi up at Mount Everest because they really needed a signal to know how tall the Dalai Lama is, or what the price of a yak is nowadays. Like, really? No,
exactly.
Come on, people.
No, that's it.
No. Technology, it's ridiculous at this point that we need to put Wi-Fi on top of a natural wonder, by the way. We're already doing enough to the planet as is. Nassau County is in a drought. So is Suffolk County. We're already doing enough to the planet as it is anyways. Like, we got to put Wi-Fi on top of Mount Kilimanjaro. It's 16,000 feet up. How is it getting up there? 5G doesn't work that high up. We're doing creating 20G at this point? 90G? I don't even know. Like I said last week, I hate marketing, and I'm in marketing. I don't even know what the hell's going on anymore with this. Like, why is this a thing? Why are these things that I have to rant about and worry about and complain myself with? It'd be much better if I could just calm myself down and go to a serene place like Mount Kilimanjaro and just cruise myself and just kill away all the vibe and all the anger. And then all of a sudden I'm going to hear ping, ping, and someone's going to be on their BlackBerry texting about a business meeting they're having. Like, come on now. Ridiculous. Duncan still sucks, as we always know. Kevin Durant is a loyalist moron. And Adam ranks Bears take, you're terrible. Fight me.
Yeah, you can all that from the top of Mount Kilimanjaro.
He literally, yeah. Future episode, ladies and gentlemen, Rick will one time Rick will rant on the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. We have to do a show from there now, Rick.
So we can't go to Charleston or Vegas. We have to go to the top of goddamn Mount Kilimanjaro.
Oh, I didn't say the top. My ass ain't making it to the top.
Well, but what's the point if you're not going to go climb the top of the mountain?
Come on, it has to be on several levels.
It's like 16,000 feet up, dude.
Rick, I'm not athletic. I'm not good. I'm not good at living.
Well, we can't do a show from the base of Mount Kilimanjaro. That's like where the common folk are, anyways.
I think that would be a beautiful lake. Doing the show on the top of a mountain would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are other mountains. There's a mountain in New York that's 5,000 feet. Why don't we do that first? Or why don't we go to the top point in Long Island? There's 100-foot hill on Long Island. Do the show from there. Let's work our way. I'll bring hotspots from work. Damn it. Let's work our way up to Kilimanjaro, though.
Oh man.
and it's like also, again, Tanzania is a developing country and all of that. Don't you want to make sure you have clean water for your residents first, and enough of a food supply first before you give European tourists Wi-Fi on the top of a mountain to ring home and make sure that their poodle's doing okay? Like, come on.
Oh man, Justin, I know we say this every single week, but I think that was the best segment yet of the rant podium.
It was something, Derek.
It was.
What do you think? Not much. Okay.
And as Rick asks his doggo, who is just laying there beautifully at this point. Ladies and gentlemen, that gives us the end of this week's episode of the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast. much anticipated, much awaited, like I said. And boys, I think we delivered. We all gave our playoff teams. The people know our playoff predictions now. And there were a lot of hot takes. There was a lot of arguing. There was a lot of fun on this episode. That's what we're all about here. We might be back next week. A lot of scheduling conflicts for us right now. That may also continue into the season. But I can promise you will see us relatively soon here speaking. And whenever we do come back, I think it's mainly going to be talking about news or maybe even going into some more conversations about the beginning of the season. Who knows? The NFL season is now starting. That's good for us. That means we're going to get new things to talk about on a week-by-week basis. I think that's just going to make it more fun for us because at the end of the day, like I said at the top, the Sports Agents of Chaos podcast, we are here to have fun. We're here to talk football, and we are here, as you saw from this episode, to spread just a little bit of chaos. Thank you all so much for joining us this week. And as always, we'll see you all next time.